Sometimes the most powerful moments happen in the most ordinary places. When you see a grown man on his knees comforting a crying child, your heart remembers what really matters in this world. Ben Torres is a janitor at Lincoln Elementary School. He's been pushing his cart down these same hallways for 3 years, cleaning up spilled juice and forgotten dreams. At 42, Ben knows what it's like to struggle. He's a single father raising his own daughter on a janitor's wages, trying to give her the childhood he never had. That's why when he sees 7-year-old Malik sitting alone in the hallway, sobbing like his heart is breaking, Ben doesn't just walk by. The boy is new to foster care, scared and confused about why his world has turned upside down. Most adults would find a teacher or call the office. But Ben sees something in Malik's eyes that takes him back to his own childhood, that look of a kid who feels completely alone. So Ben does something simple. He kneels down and plays peekaboo. What happens next will change both their lives forever, but will the system let a janitor be the hero this boy desperately needs? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The alarm clock's harsh buzz cuts through the pre-dawn silence at 5:30 a.m., but Ben Torres is already awake. He's been lying in bed for the past 20 minutes, watching the first hints of sunlight creep through the gap in his bedroom curtains, thinking about the day ahead. This is his ritual, these quiet moments before the world demands his attention, before he transforms from father to janitor, from the man who reads bedtime stories to the invisible figure who keeps Lincoln Elementary running. Ben swings his legs over the side of the bed, his joints protesting with the familiar ache of a man who's spent years on his feet. The hardwood floor is cold against his bare soles as he shuffles to the kitchen, careful not to wake Sophia. At 12, his daughter needs her sleep more than ever, especially with the challenges of middle school weighing on her young shoulders. The coffee maker gurgles to life, filling the small apartment with the rich aroma that will fuel Ben through another day. He pulls his worn work shirt from the dryer, the same navy blue polo with Lincoln Elementary embroidered over the pocket, the same shirt he's worn 3 days a week for the past 3 years. The fabric is soft from countless washings, comfortable like an old friend. While the coffee brews, Ben moves through his morning routine with quiet efficiency. He packs Sophia's lunch peanut butter and jelly sandwich cut diagonally because she insists it tastes better that way, an apple, string cheese, and a note tucked into her lunchbox. Today's note reads, "Remember, Mija, you're braver than you believe and stronger than you know. Love, Papa." These notes started 2 years ago, when Sophia was struggling to adjust to her new school after they moved to this apartment. Ben remembered how his own father never had time for such gestures, too busy working 2 jobs to keep food on the table. He promised himself his daughter would never doubt she was loved, never wonder if she mattered to someone in this world. The apartment is small but clean, every surface reflecting Ben's attention to detail. Family photos line the narrow hallway, Sophia's school pictures through the years, a faded wedding photo of Ben and Maria taken 8 years ago, back when the future seemed full of endless possibilities. Maria smiles out from that frame, her dark eyes bright with hope, unaware that cancer would steal her away just 3 years later. Ben pauses at that photo every morning, touching the glass gently. "Morning, mi amor," he whispers. "Take care of our girl today." Sophia appears in the kitchen doorway at 6:45, right on schedule. Her dark hair is pulled back in a ponytail, and she's wearing the jeans and purple sweater they picked out together last weekend. At 12, she's caught between childhood and adolescence, still young enough to hug her father goodbye, but old enough to worry about what her classmates might think. "Morning, Papa," she says, accepting the toast he's buttered for her. "You're working the early shift again." "Every day this week," Ben confirms, adjusting the collar of her sweater with paternal care. "But I'll be home by 4. We can work on that history project together." Sophia nods, chewing thoughtfully. She's always been mature for her age and necessity that came with losing her mother so young. Sometimes Ben catches glimpses of the carefree child she should be, but more often he sees the thoughtful young woman she's becoming, shaped by loss, but not broken by it. "Papa," she says as he hands her the lunch bag, "why do some kids at school act like janitors are invisible?" The question catches Ben off guard, though he should have expected it. Sophia is observant, sensitive to the social dynamics that adults often ignore. "What do you mean, mija?" Like, they'll drop trash right in front of the custodial staff and not even say sorry, or they'll talk about them like they're not even there. Sophia's brow furrows with the kind of moral confusion that makes Ben proud of the person she's becoming. Ben kneels down to meet her eyes, his hands gentle on her shoulders. "Some people forget that every job has dignity, Sophia. They think the work you do determines your worth as a person. But you and I know better, don't we? Because Mama always said that we measure people by how they treat others, especially those who can't do anything for them in return." Ben finishes the familiar phrase, one of Maria's many lessons that live on in their daily conversations. Sophia smiles, the uncertainty clearing from her face. "I always say hi to Mr. Rodriguez when I see him in the halls. And I picked up Jenny Martinez's juice box yesterday when she dropped it instead of leaving it for someone else to clean." Pride swells in Ben's chest. This is Maria's legacy, not just in Sophia's dark eyes or stubborn chin, but in her instinctive kindness, her natural empathy for others. "That's my girl. Your mama would be so proud." By 7:15, Ben is walking Sophia to the bus stop 2 blocks away. The morning air is crisp with the promise of autumn, and the neighborhood is slowly coming alive. Mrs. Patterson waves from her porch, where she's collecting the morning paper. Carlos, from the corner market, is rolling up his security gate, preparing for another day of serving the community. This is Ben's world, not glamorous, but real, not wealthy, but rich in the connections that matter. He knows his neighbors' names, their struggles, their children's achievements. When Sophia gets on the bus, he exchanges nods with the other parents, shares quiet words about homework assignments and weekend plans. The drive to Lincoln Elementary takes 15 minutes through streets Ben knows by heart. He passes the laundromat where he and Sophia spend Sunday mornings, the public library where they go every Tuesday evening, the small park where he taught her to ride a bike 3 years ago, Maria's absence making the triumph bittersweet. Lincoln Elementary stands like a brick fortress against the morning sky, its 1960s architecture functional rather than beautiful. The building serves 400 students from kindergarten through 5th grade, most from working-class families like Ben's. It's underfunded and understaffed, but filled with dedicated teachers who pour their hearts into education despite the challenges. Ben parks his 15-year-old Honda Civic in the staff lot and retrieves his supplies from the trunk. His cart is organized with military precision cleaning supplies in order of frequency of use, trash bags folded and ready, tools maintained and sharp. This is his domain, his responsibility, and he takes pride in doing it well. The school's main hallway stretches before him like a familiar friend. Ben knows every scuff mark on these floors, every chip in the paint, every locker that sticks and every door that squeaks. He's been here for 3 years, arriving each morning at 7:30 to prepare for the 400 young lives that will fill these corridors in just over an hour. Principal Williams is already in her office, the warm glow of her desk lamp visible through the glass door. She's been at Lincoln for 12 years, a steady presence who treats everyone from the superintendent to the lunch ladies with equal respect. She and Ben have developed a comfortable working relationship built on mutual appreciation for hard work and shared concern for the students. "Morning, Ben," she calls out as he passes. "How's Sophia?" "Growing up too fast," Ben replies, the standard parent response that carries genuine weight. "How's the Peterson situation?" Mrs. Williams sighs. "3rd grader. Parents going through a messy divorce. He's been acting out in class, and yesterday he hid in the bathroom during lunch. Keep an eye out for him, will you? Sometimes kids open up to you more than they do to us." This is part of Ben's unofficial role at Lincoln Elementary. Children seem drawn to him, perhaps, because he moves through their world without the authority that makes other adults seem distant and intimidating. He's learned to recognize the signs, the child who lingers after everyone else has left for recess, the one who finds excuses to walk past his supply closet, the quiet ones who seem to carry weights too heavy for their small shoulders. Of course, Ben nods. I'll keep watch. As the morning progresses, Ben moves through his routine with practiced efficiency. He unlocks classrooms, checks that everything is ready for the day's learning. In Mrs. Thompson's kindergarten room, he straightens the tiny chairs around tables set for morning activities. In Mr. Garcia's fifth-grade classroom, he empties the pencil sharpener and wipes down the whiteboard where yesterday's math problems still ghost in faint blue lines. At 8:15, the first buses begin arriving. Ben positions himself near the main entrance, not officially part of the greeting committee, but naturally gravitating toward the place where children start their day. He's learned that how a child enters the building often determines how the rest of their day unfolds. "Morning, Isabella," he says to a second grader whose backpack is almost as big as she is. "Ready for that spelling test?" Isabella beams. "I practiced all the words 10 times each. That's the way to do it. Hard work always pays off." Ben has these small interactions with dozens of students each morning. He remembers their names, their interests, their struggles. To the adults, he might be invisible, but to many of the children, he's a constant, reliable presence in their daily world. That's when he sees the new boy. Malik is small for 7, with dark skin and eyes that seem too old for his face. He walks close to Mrs. Patterson, the school counselor, but his posture screams reluctance. His clothes are clean but clearly don't belong to him. The jeans are too long, cuffed at the bottom, and the sweater hangs loose on his thin frame. Ben has seen this look before. It's the expression of a child who has learned not to expect good things, who has been disappointed too many times to hope for kindness. Foster care kids often carry this wariness, this protective shell that says, "I don't belong here and I won't let myself care because I'll just have to leave again." Mrs. Patterson guides Malik toward the main office, speaking in the overly cheerful tone adults use when they're trying too hard to make a child feel welcome. Malik doesn't respond, just walks with the mechanical compliance of someone who has learned that resistance only makes things harder. Their eyes meet for just a moment as they pass, Ben kneeling beside his cart, organizing cleaning supplies, and Malik being led to whatever new beginning awaits him. In that brief connection, Ben sees something that takes him back 25 years to his own childhood, to the feeling of being lost in a world that seemed too big and too indifferent to notice one small boy's pain. The moment passes, but something settles in Ben's chest, a recognition, a quiet certainty that this child will need more than the school's official welcome packet and assigned buddy system. This boy will need someone to see him, really see him, in a way that goes deeper than attendance sheets and academic assessments. Ben doesn't know it yet, but in that brief eye contact, both their lives have just changed forever. 3 days later, Ben arrives at Lincoln Elementary to find the morning routine disrupted. A cluster of teachers stands near the main office, speaking in hushed tones with the kind of urgency that usually means trouble. Mrs. Williams emerges from her office, her face creased with concern, and heads toward the kindergarten wing with determined strides. Ben continues with his morning preparations, but keeps his senses alert. In a school building, you learn to read the subtle signs, the pitch of voices, the speed of footsteps, the way normal patterns shift when something is wrong. Today feels different, charged with an energy that puts him on edge. By 8:30, most students have settled into their classrooms, but Ben notices Malik hasn't appeared in Mrs. Rodriguez's second-grade room. The boy has been at Lincoln for exactly 3 days, and each morning has followed the same pattern. Arrive late with Mrs. Patterson, sit silently through morning announcements, eat lunch alone while other children play. Ben is mopping the main hallway when he hears it, a soft, broken sound that makes his chest tighten, crying. Not the loud wail of a playground injury or the dramatic sobs of a child who didn't get their way, but the quiet, hopeless weeping of someone who has learned that tears don't bring comfort. He follows the sound to the far end of the hallway, near the library entrance where a row of lockers creates a small alcove. There, curled up on the floor with his knees pulled to his chest, is Malik. The boy's shoulders shake with each silent sob, his face buried in his arms, as if he could disappear entirely if he just made himself small enough. Ben's heart breaks a little. He's seen this before: children overwhelmed by changes they can't control, lost in systems designed to help but too big and impersonal to truly comfort. Malik looks so small against the institutional green lockers, so utterly alone in a building full of people. For a moment, Ben hesitates. The proper protocol would be to find Mrs. Patterson or Mrs. Williams, to let the trained professionals handle the situation. But something in Malik's posture, in the way he's trying so hard to be invisible, speaks to Ben's own memories of childhood fear and abandonment. Ben sets his mop aside and approaches slowly, the way you might approach a wounded animal. "Hey there, buddy," he says softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Rough morning?" Malik's head jerks up, his eyes wide, with the startled look of someone caught in vulnerability. Tears streak his dark cheeks, and his lower lip trembles with the effort of holding back more sobs. For a moment, they just look at each other, the middle-aged janitor and the 7-year-old boy, two people who understand what it means to feel lost. Sorry, Malik stammers, trying to wipe his face with his sleeve. "I know I'm supposed to be in class. Hey, no sorries needed," Ben says gently, lowering himself to the floor beside Malik. His knees protest, but he ignores the discomfort. "We all have days when things feel too big to handle. You want to tell me what's going on?" Malik shakes his head, but not in refusal, more like he doesn't know where to begin. "Everything's different," he finally whispers. "My new family, they're nice, but they have rules I don't know. And I accidentally broke a glass last night, and Mrs. Chen got upset even though she said it was okay, and I don't know where anything is, and..." The words tumble out in a rush, the way they do when someone has been holding them in too long. Ben listens without interrupting, recognizing the desperate need to be heard that comes when a child's world has been turned upside down. "That sounds really hard," Ben says when Malik's words trail off. "New places are scary, even when the people are trying to be kind." Malik nods vigorously, grateful to be understood. "And everyone here knows each other already. I don't know anyone. I don't know the rules. Yesterday I got in trouble for going to the bathroom without asking, but in my old school we just had to raise our hand." Ben thinks of Sophia, how she struggled with similar adjustments when they moved to this neighborhood. Different schools, different expectations, the exhausting work of learning how to belong somewhere new. "You know what?" he says, shifting to face Malik more directly. "I bet you've been very brave these past few days. Moving to a new place, starting at a new school, that takes a lot of courage." Malik looks skeptical. "I don't feel brave. I feel scared all the time." "Well," Ben says with a small smile, "sometimes being brave just means keeping going even when you're scared. And you've been doing that, haven't you?" Something in Malik's expression softens slightly. He wipes his nose with his sleeve again, leaving a damp streak on the oversized sweater. "I guess." Ben glances around the empty hallway, then looks back at Malik with a sudden inspiration. "You know what I used to do when my daughter was little and feeling sad? Something kind of silly, but it always made her smile." Malik's curiosity flickers through his tears. "What?" Without another word, Ben brings his hands up to his face and covers his eyes completely. He counts to 3 in his head, then drops his hands with a gentle peekaboo. The effect is immediate and magical. Despite everything, the fear, the sadness, the overwhelming newness of his world, Malik lets out a small giggle. It's barely more than a breath, but it's real, the first genuine expression of joy Ben has seen from the boy. "Again?" Ben asks, raising his hands. This time, Malik nods eagerly. Ben covers his eyes again, waits a beat longer, then reveals his face with an exaggerated expression of surprise. "Peekaboo, there you are." Malik giggles again, louder this time, and the sound echoes in the empty hallway like music. For just a moment, he's not a foster child or a new student or a problem to be managed. He's just a 7-year-old boy playing a simple game with a kind adult. "My turn," Malik says, bringing his small hands up to cover his own eyes. "Oh no," Ben says with mock concern. "Where did Malik go? I hope he didn't disappear." Malik drops his hands with a delighted peekaboo, and Ben gasps with theatrical surprise. "There you are. I was worried you'd vanished completely." They play for several more rounds, each iteration bringing more genuine laughter from Malik. The tears dry on his cheeks, replaced by the flush of happiness that comes from unexpected connection. Ben finds himself smiling too, remembering similar games with Sophia when she was younger, before the responsibilities of growing up made such simple pleasures rare. "Mr. Ben," Malik says after their game winds down. "Just Ben is fine, buddy." "Ben, do you think Mrs. Rodriguez will be mad that I'm not in class?" Ben glances at his watch and realizes they've been sitting here for nearly 15 minutes. The hallway won't clean itself, and both of them have places they're supposed to be. But looking at Malik's face calmer now, the panic replaced by something approaching peace, Ben knows this was time well spent. "Tell you what," Ben says, rising to his feet and extending a hand to help Malik up. "How about I walk you back to class? If Mrs. Rodriguez has any questions, I'll explain that you needed a few minutes to feel ready for learning." Malik takes Ben's hand and stands, his grip small but trusting. "You'd do that?" "Of course. Sometimes we all need someone in our corner." As they walk down the hallway together, Ben's cleaning cart rolling beside them, Malik matching his slower pace, neither of them notices Mrs. Thompson standing in her classroom doorway. She's been teaching kindergarten for 15 years, and she recognizes something precious when she sees it. Without really thinking about it, she pulls out her phone and captures the moment. A janitor and a child walking together, their connection evident in their synchronized steps and comfortable silence. She's not planning to do anything with the video. It's just one of those beautiful human moments that teachers sometimes witness, worth preserving, even if only for her own memory. But later that evening, when she's scrolling through her phone while making dinner, something compels her to share it. She posts the brief clip to her Facebook page with a simple caption: "Sometimes the most important lessons happen outside the classroom. This is what kindness looks like." Mrs. Thompson has 200 friends on Facebook, mostly family members, college roommates, and fellow teachers. She expects maybe a few likes, perhaps a comment or two from her mother and sister. She certainly doesn't expect the video to be shared 17 times by midnight, or to wake up the next morning to find it has spread far beyond her small circle of friends. She definitely doesn't expect the phone calls that begin at 7 a.m., or the reporter who shows up at Lincoln Elementary asking questions about the janitor who went viral, or the way a simple moment of human connection is about to transform into something much larger and more complicated than anyone could have imagined. The video quality is grainy, the audio unclear, but the message comes through with startling clarity. In a world that often feels harsh and impersonal, here is proof that kindness still exists. Here is a man who saw a child in need and responded not with policy or procedure, but with presence and playfulness. By noon the next day, the video has been viewed 0 times. By evening, it's trending on multiple social media platforms. News outlets pick it up, blogs write about it, and suddenly everyone wants to know more about the janitor who played peekaboo with a crying child. Ben has no idea that his simple act of compassion has been captured and shared. He goes about his morning routine as usual, arriving at work to find Mrs. Williams waiting for him with an expression he can't quite read. "Ben," she says, "we need to talk." Ben follows Mrs. Williams into her office with the careful steps of a man preparing for bad news. In his 3 years at Lincoln Elementary, he's never been called to the principal's office, and his mind races through possible infractions. Did someone complain about his work? Has he somehow violated a policy he wasn't aware of? Mrs. Williams closes the door behind them and gestures to the chair across from her desk. "Sit down, Ben. This isn't disciplinary, quite the opposite, actually." She turns her computer monitor toward him, and Ben finds himself staring at a video that makes his stomach drop. There he is, clear as day, sitting on the floor with Malik, playing peekaboo in the hallway. The image quality is poor, but there's no mistaking what's happening or who's involved. Mrs. Thompson posted this yesterday evening, Mrs. Williams explains. As of this morning, it's been viewed over 100 times and shared across multiple social media platforms. The district office has been fielding calls from reporters since 7 a.m. Ben stares at the screen, watching himself cover and uncover his eyes while Malik giggles. In the video, the moment looks exactly as it felt, genuine, caring, spontaneous. But seeing it displayed on a computer screen, knowing it's been watched by strangers around the world, makes him feel exposed and vulnerable. "I don't understand," Ben says quietly. "It was just that was upset, and I was trying to help him feel better. I didn't know anyone was recording." Mrs. Thompson didn't mean any harm, Mrs. Williams assures him. She was moved by what she saw and wanted to share something positive. She had no idea it would spread like this. Ben runs his hands through his hair, trying to process the implications. "What does this mean? Am I in trouble?" Not at all. In fact, the response has been overwhelmingly positive. People are calling you a hero, praising your compassion, sharing their own stories about acts of kindness. The district superintendent called me personally to express his appreciation for having staff members who go above and beyond. Mrs. Williams clicks through several screens, showing Ben comments and shares from the video. Words like beautiful, inspiring, and heartwarming fill the screen. Stories from parents about their own children's struggles, from teachers about the importance of seeing every child, from former students remembering the adults who made a difference in their lives. "But," Mrs. Williams continues, and Ben hears the caution in her voice, "there are also requests. Interview requests, specifically. Channel 7 wants to do a story about you. The district newsletter wants to feature you in their next issue. And there's been interest from some national outlets as well." Ben feels a familiar tightness in his chest, the same feeling he got when Maria was first diagnosed, when the doctors started using words like treatment options and prognosis. The sensation of his quiet, private life being pulled into a spotlight he never asked for. "I don't want to be on TV," he says simply. "I'm not comfortable with that kind of attention." Mrs. Williams nods understandingly. "I told them I'd discuss it with you first. You're under no obligation to participate in any interviews or publicity. However, I do think one local interview might not be a bad idea. It could help control the narrative and show the community what Lincoln Elementary is really about." Ben considers this. Part of him wants to refuse all interviews, to let the attention die down naturally. But another part, the part that thinks about funding cuts and school supply shortages, wonders if positive publicity might actually help the students he cares about. "One interview," he says finally, "local news only, and I want to make sure they understand this isn't about mates, about the kids and the school." "I'll set it up," Mrs. Williams promises. Channel 7's education reporter, Sarah Martinez, seems very respectful. She's done good pieces about our school programs before. As Ben leaves the principal's office, he's struck by how different the hallways feel now. The same fluorescent lights cast the same yellowish glow, the same scuffed linoleum stretches beneath his feet, but everything seems charged with new significance. How many people have seen him walking these halls? How many strangers now know his face? His phone buzzes with a text from Sophia. "Papa, Jenny's mom saw you on Facebook. She says you're famous. Is it true?" Ben sighs and types back, "It's complicated, Mija. We'll talk when I get home." The rest of the morning passes in a blur of curious glances and whispered conversations. Teachers, who normally exchange only polite pleasantries, stop to tell Ben how wonderful the video is, how proud they are to work with him. The school secretary mentions that the main office has received several phone calls from parents expressing their appreciation. But it's the reaction from the students that affects Ben most deeply. Word has spread through the elementary school grapevine with the speed that only children can achieve, and suddenly Ben finds himself the center of attention in a way that makes him deeply uncomfortable. "Mr. Ben! Mr. Ben!" Isabella, the second grader with the oversized backpack, runs up to him during lunch recess. "My mom says you're on the computer. She showed me the video." "That's nice, Isabella," Ben says, trying to maintain his usual gentle demeanor despite his discomfort. "Can you play peekaboo with me too?" she asks, her eyes bright with excitement. Before Ben can respond, several other children have gathered around, all chattering excitedly about the video their parents showed them. Ben finds himself surrounded by a small crowd of students, all eager for his attention in a way that feels different from his usual interactions with them. "Okay, everyone," he says gently. "I need you all to give me some space. If you want to talk, you can come find me one at a time." The children disperse reluctantly, but Ben notices they continue to watch him throughout the lunch period. Teachers on duty give him sympathetic looks, recognizing his discomfort with the sudden attention. During his afternoon break, Ben calls Sophia's school to check on her. The secretary transfers him to the guidance counselor, Mrs. Rodriguez-Not, the same Mrs. Rodriguez who teaches second grade at Lincoln, but a coincidence that always amuses Ben. "Hi, Mr. Torres," Mrs. Rodriguez says warmly. "I was wondering if you might call. Sophia's been getting some attention today because of your video." Ben's heart sinks. "What kind of attention?" "Mostly positive. Students and teachers asking her about you, telling her how wonderful the video is, but she seems a bit overwhelmed by it all. She's handling it well, she's a mature girl, but I wanted you to know." "Is she okay? Does she need to come home?" "She's fine for now, but you might want to have a conversation with her tonight about how to handle the attention. Middle school students can be curious, and sometimes that curiosity can feel intrusive." Ben thanks Mrs. Rodriguez and hangs up, guilt settling in his stomach like a stone. He never wanted this attention for himself, and he certainly never wanted it to affect Sophia. She's already dealing with the normal challenges of 12-year-old life. The last thing she needs is to be known as the viral janitor's daughter. The interview with Channel 7 is scheduled for the following afternoon. Sarah Martinez arrives at Lincoln Elementary with a small crew, just a cameraman and a sound technician, keeping things low-key as promised. She's a woman in her 30s with kind eyes and a professional demeanor that puts Ben somewhat at ease. "I want you to know," she says as they prepare for the interview, "this isn't about sensationalizing your story. It's about highlighting the kind of everyday heroism that happens in our schools. We're not looking for drama, just honesty." They film in the same hallway where Ben's moment with Malik took place. Ben sits on the small chair the crew has provided, feeling awkward and out of place in front of the camera. Sarah sits across from him, her questions gentle but thorough. "Tell me about that morning," she begins. "What did you see when you found Malik in the hallway?" Ben speaks slowly, choosing his words carefully. "I saw a child who was hurting. He was scared and overwhelmed, and he needed someone to see him, really see him, and let him know he wasn't alone." "What made you decide to play peek-a-boo specifically?" Ben smiles slightly at the memory. "My daughter Sophia, when she was little, that game always made her laugh when she was sad. There's something about peek-a-boo that works with kids. It's playful, but it's also about being seen and acknowledged. When you cover your eyes and then reveal yourself, you're saying, 'I see you, you matter, you exist.' Some people might say that comforting students isn't part of a janitor's job description." Ben considers this carefully. "I think seeing children as whole human beings is everyone's job. I'm not a teacher or a counselor, but I'm an adult in this building, and these kids spend 8 hours a day here. If I can help make their day a little better, a little easier, then that's what I'm going to do." "What do you hope people take away from this story?" "That small acts of kindness matter, that every child deserves to be seen and valued, and that it doesn't take a special degree or training to show compassionate, just takes paying attention and caring enough to act." The interview lasts 30 minutes, though Ben knows only a few sound bites will make it to air. Sarah thanks him warmly, and her crew packs up efficiently. As they're leaving, Sarah turns back to Ben. "For what it's worth," she says, "I think what you did was beautiful. The world needs more people like you." That evening, Ben sits with Sophia at their small kitchen table, helping her with homework while dinner cooks on the stove. She's been quieter than usual since getting home from school, and Ben can sense she's processing the day's events. "Papa," she says finally, looking up from her math worksheet, "are you going to be famous now?" Ben sets down his pen and gives her his full attention. "I don't think so, Mija. People are interested in the story right now, but these things usually fade pretty quickly. Why? How are you feeling about all this?" Sophia bites her lip, a habit she's had since she was small. "Some kids at school were asking me lots of questions today. About you, about our family, about why you did what you did. I didn't mind at first, but then it felt like they were more interested in the video than in being my friend." Ben's heart aches for her. "I'm sorry, Sophia. I never wanted this attention, and I especially didn't want it to affect you." "I'm proud of you, Papa," she says quickly. "What you did was good. It's just weird, you know, having strangers know about our family." Ben nods, understanding completely. "If anyone asks you questions that make you uncomfortable, you can tell them it's private. You don't owe anyone explanations about our family." "Okay." Sophia returns to her math, but after a moment she looks up again. "Papa, do you think Malik is okay? With all this attention, I mean?" It's a perceptive question that shows Sophia's growing maturity and empathy. "I don't know, Mija. I hope so. Mrs. Williams is making sure his privacy is protected as much as possible." As they finish homework and eat dinner together, Ben reflects on how quickly life can change. Yesterday, he was simply a janitor doing his job and caring for the students in his building. Today, he's the viral janitor, fielding interview requests and dealing with unexpected fame. But when he looks at Sophia, thoughtful, compassionate, resilient, he's reminded of what really matters. Not the attention or the praise, but the daily work of being a good father, a caring community member, and someone who sees the humanity in every person he encounters. The phone rings as he's washing dishes. The caller ID shows a number he doesn't recognize. "Hello? Mr. Torres, this is David Chen from the school district office. I wanted to speak with you about some concerns that have been raised regarding your interaction with students." Ben's stomach drops. "What kind of concerns?" "Nothing serious, but we've received a complaint suggesting that your actions with the student might have been inappropriate. I'd like to schedule a meeting to discuss proper boundaries and protocols for non-instructional staff." The dishes suddenly feel very heavy in Ben's hands. "A complaint about helping a crying child? Like I said, it's nothing serious, just standard procedure when questions are raised. Can you come in tomorrow morning?" Ben agrees to the meeting, his mind racing. Who would complain about what happened with Malik? And what does this mean for his job, for his ability to continue helping the students who need it most? As he hangs up the phone, Ben realizes that viral fame might come with complications he never anticipated. The district office building stands in stark contrast to Lincoln Elementary's worn brick facade. Here, everything is polished and professional marble floors that echo with each footstep, fluorescent lights that hum with corporate efficiency, and the kind of institutional cleanliness that Ben knows intimately from his years maintaining similar spaces. Ben arrives 15 minutes early for his 9 a.m. meeting, wearing his best khaki pants and the button-down shirt he reserves for parent-teacher conferences and church. His hands are clean but show the evidence of honest work calluses from years of mopping and maintenance, a small scar from when he cut himself fixing a broken window last spring. The receptionist, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes, recognizes him immediately. "You must be Ben Torres," she says with a warm smile. "I saw your interview on Channel 7 last night. It was beautiful." "Thank you," Ben replies, though the praise makes him uncomfortable. He's still adjusting to being recognized by strangers. "Mr. Chen will see you shortly. Can I get you some coffee?" Ben accepts gratefully, needing something to occupy his hands while he waits. The coffee is better than the cafeteria blend at Lincoln Elementary, served in a real ceramic mug instead of a disposable cup. Small luxuries that remind him of the gap between the district office and the schools they serve. David Chen appears precisely at 9 a.m., a man in his early 40s wearing a well-tailored suit and the expression of someone who has learned to navigate institutional politics. His handshake is firm, his smile professional, but not quite warm. "Mr. Torres, thank you for coming in. I know this might seem unnecessary given all the positive attention you've received, but we have procedures we need to follow." Chen's office is spacious and organized, with certificates and awards covering one wall and a large window overlooking the district's administrative parking lot. Ben takes the seat across from Chen's desk, feeling like a student called to the principal's office. "First, let me say that your actions with the student were clearly well-intentioned." Chen begins, opening a manila folder. "However, we've received a formal complaint questioning whether your interaction was appropriate for someone in your position." Ben's mouth goes dry. "A formal complaint? From whom?" "I can't reveal the specific source, but I can tell you it came from someone with concerns about proper boundaries between non-instructional staff and students." Chen pulls out a sheet of paper. "The complaint suggests that your physical proximity to the child and the nature of your interaction may have violated district policies regarding appropriate contact." The words hit Ben like a physical blow. After 36 hours of being called a hero, suddenly he's being investigated as a potential threat. "Mr. Chen, I was helping a crying child. I never touched him inappropriately. I was playing peekaboo to calm him down." "I understand, and I want to be clear that we're not suggesting any intentional wrongdoing. This is about ensuring all staff members understand the guidelines we have in place to protect both students and employees." Chen slides a document across the desk. "These are the district's policies regarding physical contact with students and appropriate boundaries for support staff. I need to ask if you've read these before." Ben scans the document, his heart sinking as he reads phrases like minimal physical contact, appropriate supervision, and defined professional boundaries. The language is clinical and protective, designed to prevent lawsuits rather than encourage human connection. "I've never seen this specific document," Ben admits. "Mrs. Williams covers safety protocols during our staff meetings, but this level of detail, no, I haven't seen this." "That's not uncommon. These guidelines were updated last year after some incidents in other districts. The important thing is that moving forward, you understand the expectations." Chen leans forward, his tone becoming more personal. "Look, Ben, can I call you Ben? What you did was kind. No one is questioning your motives. But in today's environment, we have to be extremely careful about how interactions between adults and children are perceived." "So you're saying I shouldn't have helped him?" "I'm saying that in the future, the appropriate response would be to immediately locate a teacher, counselor, or administrator. Support staff should not engage in one-on-one interactions with students, especially those involving physical proximity or extended contact." Ben stares at the policy document, the words blurring slightly. "What if I see another child who's upset? What if they're hurt or scared and there's no teacher around? I'm supposed to just walk away?" "You're supposed to follow protocol. Find the appropriate staff member, report the situation, and let trained professionals handle it." The conversation continues for another 20 minutes, covering liability concerns, proper reporting procedures, and the importance of maintaining professional boundaries. Chen's tone remains respectful, but firm. This isn't a punishment, but it is a warning. As Ben prepares to leave, Chen adds one final instruction. "I'm also recommending that you avoid any further media interviews. The attention has been largely positive, but continued publicity could complicate things if other concerns arise." Ben drives back to Lincoln Elementary in silence, the policy document sitting on his passenger seat like an accusation. The morning's interaction has left him feeling hollowed out, as if something essential has been carved away from his understanding of his role at the school. He arrives during lunch recess to find Mrs. Williams waiting for him near the main entrance. Her expression tells him she's already heard about the meeting. "How did it go?" she asks, as they walk toward her office. "I've been officially warned about appropriate boundaries," Ben says. unable to keep the bitterness from his voice. Apparently helping a crying child makes me a liability. Mrs. Williams closes her office door behind them. Ben, I want you to know that complaint didn't come from anyone at this school. None of our staff or regular families would question what you did. Then who? I can't say for certain, but I suspect it came from someone who saw the video online and decided to make trouble. We get these sometimes people who look for reasons to complain about public employees. The revelation doesn't make Ben feel better. The idea that a stranger, someone who has never met him or Malik, could file a complaint that threatens his job and his ability to help children is deeply disturbing. What does this mean for my work here? Ben asks. Officially, nothing changes. You continue doing your job as you always have. Unofficially, Mrs. Williams sighs. You'll probably want to be more careful about one-on-one interactions with students. Make sure there are witnesses, keep interactions brief, that sort of thing. Ben thinks about all the small moments that make up his daily work. The shy kindergartner who always waves when she sees him, the third grader who likes to tell him about his weekend adventures, the fifth grader who sometimes lingers near the supply closet when she's having a bad day. All of these interactions now feel fraught with potential danger. And Malik? Ben asks. He's been asking about you. Mrs. Rodriguez says he keeps looking for you in the hallways. Ben's chest tightens. I should probably keep my distance from him specifically, given the complaint. Ben. No, it's okay. I understand. I need to protect my job so I can take care of Sophia. I can't help anyone if I'm unemployed. The rest of the day passes in a haze of routine tasks, performed with less than usual enthusiasm. Ben mops floors, empties trash cans, and maintains the building, but he finds himself avoiding the areas where he might encounter students. When children wave or try to start conversations, he responds politely but briefly, always making sure other adults are nearby. During his afternoon break, Ben calls Sophia's school again to check on her. Mrs. Rodriguez, the guidance counselor, has more concerning news. Sophia's been dealing with more attention today, she reports. Some of it positive, but some of the questions are getting more intrusive. A few students have been asking about your family situation, why it's just the two of you, that sort of thing. How is she handling it? She's being very mature about it, but I can tell she's stressed. One boy made a comment about how janitors don't usually get on TV unless they've done something wrong. Sophia defended you, of course, but it clearly upset her. Ben closes his eyes, guilt washing over him. Should I pick her up early? I don't think that's necessary, but you should definitely talk to her tonight. And Ben, you might want to prepare her for the possibility that this attention could continue for a while. That evening, Ben finds Sophia in her room, supposedly doing homework but actually staring out her window with the distant expression of someone lost in thought. He knocks gently on her doorframe. Mind if I come in? Sophia turns and nods, making space for him on her bed. Ben sits beside her, noticing the way she leans into his presenter, reminder that despite her growing independence, she's still his little girl. Rough day? He asks. Some kids are being weird about the video, Sophia admits. Most of them think it's cool, but a few are asking strange questions. Like, why don't I have a mom, and is our family poor because you're a janitor, and stuff like that. Ben feels his jaw clench. I'm sorry, Mija. That's not fair to you. I told them it's none of their business, but... Sophia pauses, choosing her words carefully. Papa, are you in trouble because of the video? The question catches Ben off guard. Sophia has always been perceptive, but her ability to sense his emotional state sometimes surprises him. What makes you ask that? You seem different today, sadder, and you got that phone call last night that made you upset. Ben considers how much to tell her. She's mature for 12, but she's still a child who shouldn't have to worry about adult problems. Some people at the district office had questions about what happened with Malik. They wanted to make sure I understood the rules about helping students. But you didn't do anything wrong. No, I didn't. But sometimes adults have to follow rules that don't always make sense. Sophia is quiet for a moment, processing this. Are you still going to help kids who need it? The question goes straight to the heart of Ben's dilemma. I want to, Miha. But I also need to keep my job so I can take care of you. Mama would have helped him too, Sophia says quietly. She always said that doing the right thing isn't always the safe thing. The reference to Maria catches Ben off guard, as it always does. Even 3 years after her death, Sophia's memories of her mother can surface at unexpected moments, carrying wisdom that seems beyond her years. Yes, Ben agrees, she would have. They sit together in comfortable silence, watching the sun set through Sophia's bedroom window. The viral video that started with a moment of connection between Ben and Malik has created ripple effects. Neither of them could have anticipated praise and criticism, opportunity and risk, joy and fear, all tangled together in ways that resist simple resolution. The investigation into Ben's background begins quietly, almost invisibly, like frost forming on windows. He doesn't know about the phone calls to his previous employers, the review of his personnel file, or the careful scrutiny of his interactions with students over the past 3 years. What he does notice is the subtle shift in how some people treat Hema, coolness from a few teachers, cautious glances from parents during pickup time, and the way conversations sometimes stop when he enters a room. It's Mrs. Patterson, the school counselor, who finally explains what's happening. She finds Ben in the supply closet during his lunch break, organizing cleaning supplies with the methodical precision of someone trying to maintain control in an increasingly chaotic situation. "Ben, do you have a minute?" she asks, closing the door behind her for privacy. He looks up from the bottles of disinfectant he's been arranging and rearranging. "Of course. Is everything okay?" Mrs. Patterson's expression is sympathetic, but troubled. "I wanted you to hear this from me, rather than through the rumor mill. The district has opened a formal review of your employment and your interactions with students." Ben's hands still on the supplies. "What kind of review?" "They're interviewing staff, parents and students, asking about your behavior, your interactions, whether anyone has ever felt uncomfortable or witnessed anything inappropriate." Mrs. Patterson sits on a small stool, meeting Ben at eye level. "I want you to know that everyone I've spoken to has nothing but positive things to say about you. But the district has to be thorough. In today's climate, any complaint involving an adult and a child has to be investigated fully, even when it seems baseless." Ben leans back against the metal shelving, feeling the weight of 3 years of careful work and genuine caring being dissected by strangers who have never seen him comfort a frightened child or celebrate a student's small victory. How long will this take? These things usually wrap up within a week or two. The good news is that so far, the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. Teachers describe you as professional and caring. Parents mention how their children speak fondly of you. The investigation is really just a formality at this point. Mrs. Patterson pauses, then continues more gently. "Ben, I've also been working with Malik since he arrived, and I thought you should know how much your interaction with him meant. He's been through 4 foster placements in the past year, and he's developed some significant trust issues. What you did that morning, it was the first time in months that anyone has reported seeing him smile." The words should bring comfort, but instead they intensify Ben's frustration. "And now I'm being investigated for it." "You're being investigated because we live in a world where good intentions aren't always enough to protect people from suspicion. It's not fair, but it's reality." That afternoon, Ben encounters Malik in the hallway near the library. The boy's face lights up when he sees Ben, and he starts to approach with the eager steps of a child seeking connection. Ben's heart breaks as he forces himself to maintain distance, offering only a polite nod and a brief, "Hello, Malik," before continuing with his work. The confusion and hurt that flashes across Malik's face is almost unbearable. Ben wants to explain, to reassure the boy that the change has nothing to do with him, but the district's warnings echo in his mind. Any interaction could be scrutinized, analyzed, and potentially used against him. At home that evening, Ben sits at the kitchen table with a thick manila envelope that arrived in the day's mail. The return address is from Family Services, and his name is written in neat block letters across the front. Inside, he finds a comprehensive case file with Malik Johnson typed across the top in bold letters. Mrs. Chen, Malik's current foster mother, had dropped off the file during her visit to the school earlier that day. She wanted Ben to understand the full scope of what the boy has been through, hoping it might help explain his behavior and needs. Ben reads through the pages with growing sadness and anger. Malik's story unfolds in clinical language and bureaucratic shorthand, but the human cost is unmistakable. Born to a teenage mother struggling with addiction, placed in care at age 3 when she was arrested for drug possession. His first foster family kept him for 2 years before deciding they couldn't handle his behavioral issues, bedwetting and nightmares that the file attributes to trauma. The second placement lasted only 6 months. The foster father found Malik's neediness exhausting and requested his removal. The third family seemed promising. Initially, they had experience with troubled children and seemed committed to helping Malik heal. But their own biological child was born premature and required extensive medical care, leaving no emotional or financial resources for Malik's needs. Each placement is documented with cold efficiency, dates of arrival and departure, reasons for placement disruption, assessments of Malik's adjustment challenges. But between the lines, Ben reads the story of a little boy who has learned that adults abandon him, that love is temporary, and that his needs are too much for anyone to handle long-term. The current placement with Mrs. Chen and her husband is only 3 weeks old. They're experienced foster parents with a track record of successful placements, but even they seem uncertain about their ability to help Malik overcome his accumulated trauma. "He's a sweet child," Mrs. Chen had told Mrs. Patterson, "but he doesn't trust us yet. He hoards food in his room, afraid we won't feed him. He won't let us help him with anything, terrified of being seen as too much trouble. And he talks about the janitor at school constantly, Mr. Ben this, Mr. Ben that. I think you're the first adult who's shown him kindness without expecting anything in return." Sophia finds Ben at the kitchen table an hour later, the case file spread before him like evidence of a crime. Her math homework lies forgotten in her backpack as she takes in her father's expression. "Papa, what's wrong?" Ben quickly closes the file, but not before Sophia glimpses Malik's school photo paperclip to the first page. "Just some paperwork from school, Mija. How was your day?" "You're lying," Sophia says with the directness that sometimes catches Ben off guard. "And that's the boy from your video, isn't it?" Ben looks at his daughter, really looks at her and sees Maria's determination in her eyes, the same unwillingness to accept easy answers when something important is at stake. "Yes," he admits, "Mrs. Chen wanted me to understand what Malik has been through." "Can I see?" "Sophia, this is private information." "Papa, I'm not a little kid anymore. If this is affecting our family, I should know what's happening." Ben considers this, recognizing the logic in her request. Sophia has always been mature for her age, forced to grow up quickly after losing her mother. Perhaps she deserves to understand the situation fully. He reopens the file and shows her the basic information: Malik's age, his placement history, the reasons for his multiple moves. Sophia reads in silence, her expression growing more serious with each page. "He's been in foster care his whole life?" she asks finally. "Not his whole life, but most of it, since he was 3. And nobody wanted to keep him?" Ben hears the unspoken question in her voice, the fear that lives in every child who has experienced loss. If Malik can be unwanted, if families can give up on a 7-year-old boy, what does that mean about the security of any family? "It's not that simple, Mija. Foster care is complicated. Sometimes families can't handle the challenges that come with helping a child who's been hurt. Sometimes circumstances change. It doesn't mean Malik isn't worthy of love, it means the system hasn't found the right family for him yet." Sophia nods, but Ben can see her processing deeper implications. "Is that why you played peekaboo with him? Because he needed someone to show him he mattered?" "Yes. He was scared and alone, and I wanted him to know that someone saw him." "And now you're in trouble for caring about him." Ben doesn't answer immediately, but his silence speaks volumes. Sophia closes the file gently and looks at her father with eyes that seem far older than 12. "This is stupid," she says with quiet conviction. "You did the right thing, and anyone who can't see that is stupid." Sophia: "No, Papa, I'm angry about this. You've been sad and worried ever since that meeting at the district office, and it's not fair. You help kids every day at school. You helped me when Mama died and I thought the world was ending. You helped Mrs. Patterson next door with her groceries, and you help Mr. Rodriguez when his car won't start. That's who you are, someone who helps people. And if they can't understand that, then they're the ones with the problem, not you." Ben reaches across the table and takes Sophia's hand. "When did you get so wise?" "Mama always said wisdom comes from paying attention to what matters and ignoring what doesn't." Sophia squeezes his hand. "What matters is helping people who need it. What doesn't matter is what scared adults think about it." That night, after Sophia has gone to bed, Ben sits in his small living room looking through old photo albums. Pictures of Maria laughing at their wedding, holding newborn Sophia in the hospital, teaching their toddler daughter to walk in this same living room. Images of family trips to the zoo, birthday parties, ordinary Tuesday evenings that seemed unremarkable at the time, but now shine with the precious glow of memory. In one photo, Maria is kneeling beside a crying child at Sophia's 4th birthday party, not their own child, but a little boy who had fallen and scraped his knee. Maria's expression is gentle and focused as she cleans the wound and applies a bandage, while other adults continue their conversations nearby. Ben remembers that moment clearly now. The boy's parents were busy socializing, and Maria simply saw a child who needed care and provided it without hesitation. No one questioned her actions or suggested she was overstepping boundaries. She was simply a caring adult responding to a child's need. The difference, Ben realizes, isn't in the action but in the perception. Maria was a mother, a teacher, someone whose nurturing was expected and celebrated. Ben is a janitor, a man in a working-class job, someone whose kindness toward children is automatically suspect in ways that a woman's would never be. The unfairness of this reality settles over him like a heavy blanket. He's being punished not for what he did, but for who he is, a man without credentials or authority, someone whose care for children is seen as inappropriate simply because it comes from an unexpected source. But as Ben closes the photo album and prepares for bed, he thinks about Malik's smile in that hallway, about the way the boy's tears stopped and his shoulders relaxed when he felt seen and valued. He thinks about all the children who pass through Lincoln Elementary carrying burdens too heavy for their small shoulders, and he knows that no investigation or policy document can change his fundamental belief. Every child deserves to be noticed, valued, and cared for by the adults in their world. The question isn't whether he'll continue to care, that's as inevitable as breathing. The question is whether he'll be allowed to show that care, or whether the system's fear will ultimately triumph over a child's need to be seen. The essay appears on Ben's kitchen table on a Thursday evening, carefully written in Sophia's neat handwriting on lined notebook paper. The title reads "My Hero" in purple ink, and Ben's name is written in the corner where the student information belongs. Sophia has left it there deliberately, knowing her father will see it when he comes home from his evening shift. Ben reads the essay twice, his eyes growing misty as he takes in his daughter's words. When people think of heroes, they usually think of superheroes or soldiers or famous people who do big, important things. But I think the best heroes are the ones who do small, important things every day without anyone noticing. My hero is my papa, Ben Torres. He works as a janitor at Lincoln Elementary School, which means he cleans up after other people and makes sure the building is safe and comfortable for learning. Some people might think that's not an important job, but they would be wrong. My papa sees people that other adults don't see. He remembers the names of kids who feel invisible. He notices when someone is sad or scared or lonely, and he finds ways to help them feel better. He doesn't do it because it's his job. He does it because he believes every person matters, no matter how old they are or where they come from. 3 years ago, my mama died from cancer. I was 9 years old, and I thought my world was ending. My papa could have fallen apart too, but instead he held us both together. He learned to braid my hair, even though his big hands weren't made for it. He figured out how to cook the foods Mama used to make, even when they didn't taste quite right. He drove me to every school event and cheered louder than any other parent, making sure I never felt like I was missing out on anything. But the thing that makes my papa a hero isn't just how he takes care of me, it's how he takes care of everyone. I've seen him stay late to help the night custodian when someone got sick. I've watched him spend his own money to buy supplies for teachers who couldn't afford them. I've heard stories from kids at other schools about how Mr. Preventi's not come des. Ben helped them when they were new or scared or having a bad day. Last week, a video of my papa went viral because someone recorded him playing peekaboo with a little boy who was crying in the school hallway. People all over the world shared the video and called my papa a hero, but I already knew that. I've known it my whole life. Now some people are saying my papa shouldn't have helped that little boy, that it wasn't his job or his place. But those people don't understand what it means to be a hero. Heroes don't wait for permission to do the right thing. They don't worry about whether helping someone is officially their responsibility. They see someone who needs help, and they help. My papa taught me that kindness doesn't require special training or official authority. It just requires paying attention and caring enough to act. He taught me that every person deserves to be treated with dignity, whether they're the superintendent of schools or the student everyone else ignores. I don't know if my essay will change anyone's mind about what happened at Lincoln Elementary, but I hope people will understand that my papa isn't someone to be afraid of or suspicious about. He's someone to be grateful for, a person who makes the world a little better just by being in it. That's what a real hero looks like. Ben sets the essay down with shaking hands, overwhelmed by his daughter's fierce loyalty and mature perspective. At 12, Sophia has articulated truths that many adults seem unable to grasp, that heroism often comes in quiet moments, that caring for others shouldn't require credentials, and that the world needs more people willing to see and respond to human need. When Sophia comes home from school the next day, she finds Ben in the kitchen, making her favorite after-school snack, apple slices with peanut butter, arranged on the blue plate that used to be Maria's. "I read your essay," he says simply. Sophia sets her backpack down carefully, studying her father's expression. "What did you think?" "I think your mama would be incredibly proud of the young woman you're becoming." Ben pulls out a chair for her at the table. "I also think you understand this situation better than most of the adults involved." Sophia takes an apple slice and chews thoughtfully. "Are you going to get in trouble for helping Malik?" "I don't know, Mija. The investigation is still ongoing." "What if they decide you can't work at the school anymore?" It's the question Ben has been avoiding, the possibility that keeps him awake at night. "Then we'll figure something else out. We always do. But you love that job, and the kids there need you." Ben sits across from his daughter, marveling at her insight. "Sometimes doing the right thing comes with costs, Sophia, but that doesn't make it less right." That afternoon brings unexpected visitors to Lincoln Elementary. A small group of parents, led by Mrs. Rodriguez, the mother of Carlos, a third grader in Mrs. Thompson's class, arrives at the main office requesting a meeting with Mrs. Williams. "We're here about Ben Torres," Mrs. Rodriguez explains. "We heard about the investigation, and we want to make sure the school knows how we feel about what happened." Mrs. Williams invites the group into the library, where they can speak privately. The 5 parents represent different grade levels and backgrounds, but they share a common message. Ben Torres is exactly the kind of person they want working in their children's school. "My son Carlos has struggled with anxiety since kindergarten," Mrs. Rodriguez begins. "Last year, he had a panic attack during a fire drill. While the teachers were dealing with the other kids, Ben sat with Carlos until he calmed down. He didn't make a big deal about it, didn't treat Carlos like he was broken or weird. He just stayed with him until he felt safe again." Mrs. Patterson, whose daughter Isabella is in 2nd grade, nods in agreement. Isabella always talks about Mr. Ben, how he remembers her name, asks about her weekend, notices when she's had her hair cut. It might not seem like much, but for a shy kid like Isabella, having an adult notice her and treat her like she matters, that's huge. The other parents share similar stories. Ben helping a kindergartner tie his shoes when the teacher was busy with other students. Ben staying late to help clean up after a classroom party when a parent volunteer didn't show up. Ben quietly providing his own tissues and band-aids when the nurse's office ran out of supplies. The thing is, adds Mr. Chen, whose son is in 4th grade, Ben doesn't just help our kids, he helps us too. When I was having car trouble last month, Ben offered to give me a ride to work. When Mrs. Patterson's husband was in the hospital, Ben made sure her trash cans got to the curb every week. This is a man who sees where help is needed and provides it, no questions asked. Mrs. Williams listens to each story, taking notes and nodding thoughtfully. She's worked in education for nearly 2 decades, and she knows that the kind of consistent, genuine care these parents are describing is rare and precious. "What would you like me to do with this information?" she asks. "We want you to know that if the district is questioning Ben's character or his interactions with children, they're making a serious mistake." Mrs. Rodriguez says firmly, "We trust him completely, our kids trust him, and we think the school and the district should be protecting and supporting people like Ben, not investigating them." That evening, Mrs. Williams calls Ben at home to share the parents' visit. Sophia answers the phone and calls for her father, who takes the call in the kitchen while she works on homework at the dining room table. "Ben, I wanted you to know that several parents came to school today, specifically to express their support for you." Mrs. Williams begins. "They shared stories about your interactions with their children and made it very clear that they view you as an asset to our school community." Ben feels a warmth spread through his chest, gratitude, mixed with relief that at least some people understand who he really is and what he's trying to do. "That means everything to me," he says quietly. "I've been worried that parents might be scared or suspicious after the complaint. Quite the opposite. These parents are angry that anyone would question your motives or your character. Mrs. Rodriguez is actually talking about organizing a petition of support. That's not necessary. Maybe not necessary, but it might be helpful. Ben, I want you to know that I'm planning to include their statements in my report to the district. Sometimes investigations focus so much on potential problems that they miss the bigger picture of someone's actual impact." After hanging up, Ben sits at the kitchen table feeling lighter than he has in days. The investigation continues, and the outcome remains uncertain, but knowing that the families he serves understand and value his work provides strength for whatever comes next. Sophia looks up from her math homework. "Good news? Some parents came to school today to tell Mrs. Williams that they support me." Sophia smiles, the first genuine smile Ben has seen from her since this whole situation began. "Of course they did. Like I said, anyone who can't see that you're one of the good guys is stupid." "Sophia, I know, that's not nice." She grins, but it's still true. That weekend, Ben takes Sophia to the public library as they do every Saturday morning. It's one of their traditions. Sophia chooses 3 books for the week, while Ben reads the newspaper and enjoys a cup of coffee from the small cafe in the lobby. Today, however, their routine is interrupted by recognition. The librarian, Mrs. Kim, approaches them with a warm smile. "You're Ben Torres, aren't you? From the video." Ben nods, bracing himself for whatever comes next. These interactions with strangers have become unpredictable, sometimes positive, sometimes uncomfortable, always reminding him that his privacy has been compromised. "I wanted to thank you," Mrs. Kim continues. "My grandson goes to Lincoln Elementary, and he's mentioned you many times. You helped him find his way to the nurse's office when he felt sick on his 2nd day of school. He was too shy to ask a teacher for help, but you noticed he looked lost and made sure he got where he needed to go. That's very kind of you to say. I also wanted you to know that what you did with that little boyette reminded me why I became a librarian. We're all in the business of helping people, whether they're looking for information or just need someone to notice them and treat them with kindness." As they walk home from the library, Sophia carrying her 3 chosen books, she reflects on the encounter. It's funny how some adults get it and others don't. What do you mean? Like Mrs. Kim, she understood right away that what you did was good, but the people at the district office are scared of the same thing. It's like they're looking at the same picture but seeing completely different things. Ben considers this observation, struck by its accuracy. The viral video has become a kind of Rorschach test, revealing as much about the viewers as about the original moment between him and Malik. Some people see kindness and connection, others see liability and risk. Some see a caring adult helping a child. Others see potential danger and inappropriate boundaries. The divide seems to reflect broader cultural anxieties about trust, safety, and the role of adults in children's lives. In trying to protect children from harm, have they created systems that also protect them from care? As they turn onto their street, Ben notices Mrs. Patterson working in her front garden. She waves them over with soil-stained gloves and a wide smile. Ben, I've been wanting to talk to you. I saw your interview on the news and I thought it was just wonderful. Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. I also wanted you to know that I've been telling all my friends about what a good neighbor you are, how you helped me with my groceries when I hurt my back, how you fixed my porch light without being asked. If anyone questions your character, they can talk to me. It's another small gesture of support, but it adds to the growing sense that Ben's community understands him in ways that distant bureaucrats cannot. These are people who have seen him in countless small moments over years of shared neighborhood life. They know him not as a viral video or a potential liability, but as a man who shows up consistently with help and kindness. That evening, as Ben tucks Sophia into bed, she asks a question that catches him off guard. Papa, do you ever wish you hadn't helped Malik that day? Ben considers the question seriously. The past week has brought stress, investigation, and uncertainty about his future. His private life has become public property, and his daughter has been affected by attention she never asked for. No, Mija, he says finally, I could never wish I hadn't helped a child who needed it. Whatever happens because of that choice, it was still the right choice. Sophia nods, satisfied with his answer. Good, because if you ever stopped being the kind of person who helps people, you wouldn't be my papa anymore. You'd be someone else wearing his face. As Ben turns off Sophia's bedroom light and closes her door, her words echo in his mind. She's right, of course. The choice to help Malik wasn't really a choice at all, was an expression of who Ben fundamentally is. Changing that core part of himself would mean losing something essential, something that defines not just his relationship with the world, but his relationship with his daughter and his own sense of purpose. Whatever the investigation concludes, whatever policies the district implements, whatever consequences arise from his moment of spontaneous compassion, Ben knows that Sophia is watching and learning from how he navigates this challenge. The lesson he teaches her through his choices will matter long after the current crisis has passed. And the lesson he wants her to learn is simple. When you see someone who needs help, you help them. Everything else is just paperwork. The drawing arrives on Monday morning, slipped under Ben's supply closet door like a secret message. It's rendered in crayon on construction paper, the kind of artwork that elementary school teachers hang on bulletin boards and parents display on refrigerators. But this particular drawing stops Ben in his tracks. The figure in the center is unmistakably him, though interpreted through 7-year-old eyes. Ben's janitor uniform has become a cape, flowing dramatically behind a figure with kind eyes and strong arms. The background shows Lincoln Elementary, but in Malik's vision, the building glows with warm yellow light. At the bottom, in careful block letters, Malik has written, Mr. Ben the Superhero. Ben kneels in his supply closet, holding the drawing with trembling hands. In all the complexity of investigations and policies, media attention, and bureaucratic concerns, he had almost forgotten the simple truth at the center of everything. A scared little boy who had found comfort in an unexpected place. But as Ben studies the drawing more closely, he notices details that make his heart ache. Malik has drawn himself in the corner, much smaller than the heroic Ben figure, with tears still visible on his face. Even in his artwork celebrating their connection, the boy has portrayed himself as someone who needs saving. That afternoon, Ben learns why. Mrs. Williams calls him to her office during lunch recess, her expression more serious than he's seen since this whole situation began. She closes the door carefully and gestures for him to sit. "Ben, I need to tell you something, and it's going to be difficult to hear." Ben's stomach clenches. "Is this about the investigation?" "Indirectly, yes. The district's review of your interactions with students has caused some ripple effects that we didn't anticipate." Mrs. Williams sits across from him, her hands folded on her desk. "Malik's foster family has requested that he be transferred to a different school." The words hit Ben like a physical blow. "What? Why?" "They're concerned about the attention surrounding the situation. Mrs. Chen feels that keeping Malik at Lincoln Elementary keeps him too close to what she calls the controversy. She thinks a fresh start at a different school would be better for his emotional stability." Ben stares at Mrs. Williams, trying to process what he's hearing, but he's finally starting to adjust here. He knows the routines. He's made some friends in his class. "I know. Mrs. Rodriguez and I both tried to explain that to Mrs. Chen, but she's adamant. She feels that the media attention and the ongoing investigation create an unhealthy environment for Malik." "Where is he going?" "Roosevelt Elementary, across town. It's a good school, but it means starting over completely new teachers, new classmates, new everything." Ben thinks about Malik's case file, the long list of placements and disruptions that have defined the boy's short life. Every time he starts to build connections, something forces him to start over. The drawing in Ben's hands suddenly feels heavier, weighted with the knowledge that the superhero Malik drew couldn't actually save him from another uprooting. "When?" Ben asks quietly. "Today is his last day. Mrs. Chen is picking him up after school to begin the transition process." The timing is cruel. Ben has spent the past week maintaining careful distance from Malik on the advice of the district office, and now the boy is leaving without Ben having had a chance to explain or say goodbye. "Mrs. Williams, I should talk to him. He needs to know that this isn't his fault, that the changes aren't because of anything he did." Mrs. Williams looks uncomfortable. "Ben, given the ongoing investigation, I'm not sure that's appropriate. Any interaction between you and Malik right now could be misinterpreted. He's 7 years old, and he's being moved to another school because of something that happened between us. He has a right to understand why, and I have a responsibility to make sure he doesn't blame himself." The two adults sit in silence for a moment, the institutional caution warring with human compassion. Finally, Mrs. Williams nods slowly. "If you happen to encounter him naturally during your regular duties, and if there are other adults present, I suppose a brief conversation wouldn't be inappropriate." Ben knows this is the most permission he's likely to get. He spends the rest of the afternoon strategically timing his work to intersect with Malik's classroom schedule, hoping for a chance to speak with the boy before he disappears from Lincoln Elementary forever. The opportunity comes during the final hour of the school day. Malik is in the hallway returning books to the library cart when Ben emerges from the nearby supply closet. Mrs. Rodriguez, Malik's teacher, is supervising the library return process, providing the adult witness that makes conversation possible. "Hi, Malik," Ben says gently, approaching slowly. Malik's face lights up with the pure joy of a child seeing someone he's missed. "Mr. Ben, I made you a picture." He reaches into his backpack and pulls out another drawing, this one, showing the two of them playing peekaboo in the hallway. "I saw the first one you gave me," Ben says, kneeling to Malik's eye level. "It's beautiful. You made me look very heroic." "You are heroic," Malik says, with the absolute certainty that only children possess. "You helped me when I was sad." Ben's throat tightens. "Malik, I heard that you're going to start at a new school. How do you feel about that?" The light in Malik's eyes dims slightly. "Mrs. Chen says it will be better for me. She says there won't be any trouble there." "The trouble isn't your fault, buddy. You didn't do anything wrong." But if I hadn't been crying in the hallway, you wouldn't have had to help me, and then people wouldn't be mad at you. The 7-year-old logic breaks Ben's heart. Malik has internalized responsibility for the adult conflicts swirling around their interaction, carrying guilt that belongs to no one, and certainly not to a scared child who simply needed comfort. "Listen to me, Malik," Ben says, placing his hands gently on the boy's shoulders. "You being sad wasn't wrong. Me helping you wasn't wrong. Sometimes adults get confused about rules and policies, but that doesn't mean the caring was wrong." Malik nods, but Ben can see the uncertainty in his eyes. At 7, with a history of multiple placements and disruptions, Malik has learned to assume that problems are somehow his fault, that his needs are too much for adults to handle. "I want you to remember something, okay?" Ben continues. "No matter where you go to school, no matter how many times things change, you matter. You're important. You deserve to be cared for and to feel safe. That's not going to change. Will I see you again?" The question hangs in the air between them. Ben doesn't know the answer. He doesn't know if he'll still have his job next week. Doesn't know if the investigation will conclude with restrictions that prevent him from having any contact with former students. "I don't know," Ben admits, "but I want you to know that I'll always remember you. I'll always be glad that I got to meet you and that I could help you feel a little better that day." Malik hugs Ben impulsively, a fierce embrace that communicates everything the boy can't put into words. Ben hugs him back, not caring about policies or investigations or potential consequences. Some moments transcend bureaucracy. "Be brave, buddy," Ben whispers. "And remember, you're worth caring about." Mrs. Rodriguez approaches as the hug ends, her expression sympathetic. "Malik, it's time to pack up your desk. Your foster mom will be here soon." As Malik gathers his belongings, Ben watches from a distance, memorizing details. The careful way the boy folds his artwork, the quick glance he gives the classroom as if trying to remember everything, the small wave he offers Ben before disappearing into Mrs. Rodriguez's classroom. 20 minutes later, Ben sees Mrs. Chen's car pull up to the front entrance. Through the window, he watches Malik walk toward the vehicle, carrying a small box containing his school supplies and personal items. The boy turns once to look back at the building, scanning the windows as if hoping to see Ben one more time. Ben steps into view and waves. Malik waves back, a small gesture that feels enormous in its finality. Then the car door closes, and Ben watches the vehicle drive away, carrying Malik toward another new beginning in a life already filled with too many fresh starts. That evening, Ben sits at his kitchen table with both of Malik's drawings spread before him. Sophia finds him there when she comes home from school, recognizing immediately that something significant has happened. "Papa, what's wrong?" Ben explains about Malik's transfer, about the foster family's decision to move him to a different school to escape the controversy surrounding their interaction. Sophia studies the drawings silently, taking in the 7-year-old's perspective on the situation. "This is so unfair," she says finally. "He finally found someone who cared about him, and now they're taking him away because other people are scared of kindness." Ben looks at his daughter, struck by her ability to cut through adult complexity to reach the emotional truth. "Yes, Mija, that's exactly what's happening. Are you going to just let him disappear?" The question challenges Ben in ways he didn't expect. Throughout this ordeal, he's been reactive, responding to investigations, following policies, accepting constraints imposed by others. But Sophia's question suggests a different possibility, that he might have agency, that he might be able to act rather than simply endure. "What do you mean?" "I mean, are you going to let them win? The people who think caring about kids is dangerous. Are you going to let them scare you into being someone different?" Ben stares at Malik's superhero drawing, remembering the boy's absolute faith that he was someone worth looking up to. In 7-year-old eyes, Ben wasn't a janitor under investigation. He was a hero who saw someone in need and helped. "No," Ben says quietly, and then with more conviction, "No, I'm not." The next morning brings another unexpected development. Ben arrives at Lincoln Elementary to find Mrs. Williams waiting for him with an expression that's difficult to read, part relief, part concern, part something that might be admiration. Ben, I have news about the investigation. Ben braces himself, uncertain whether to expect vindication or termination. The district has concluded their review. They found no evidence of inappropriate conduct and no reason to question your interactions with students. Officially, you're cleared of any wrongdoing. Relief floods through Ben's chest, followed immediately by a more complicated emotion. And unofficially, there are going to be new policies, enhanced training requirements for all staff regarding appropriate boundaries with students, more documentation of any incidents involving student emotional distress, mandatory reporting procedures for any physical contact between non-instructional staff and students. Ben absorbs this information, recognizing it as both vindication and punishment. He's been cleared personally, but the system's response is to create more barriers between caring adults and children who need help. What does this mean for my job? Your job is secure, but Ben, Mrs. Williams pauses, choosing her words carefully. The new policies are going to make it much more difficult to have the kind of spontaneous, caring interactions that you're known for. Everything will need to be more formal, more documented, more supervised. So I can keep my job, but I can't really do my job the way I believe it should be done. That's one way to look at it. Ben thinks about Malik, now settling into yet another new school where no one knows his story or understands his needs. He thinks about all the other children who pass through Lincoln Elementary carrying invisible burdens and how the new policies will create additional barriers between them and the adults who might help. Mrs. Williams, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Of course. Do you think what I did with Malik was wrong? Mrs. Williams meets his eyes directly. No, Ben, I think what you did was exactly right. I think it was beautiful and necessary, and the kind of human response that makes schools more than just buildings where children sit at desks. Then why are we creating policies that would prevent it from happening again? Because we live in a world where lawyers and insurance companies and risk management consultants have more influence over educational policy than teachers and parents and people who actually spend time with children. The honesty in her response is both refreshing and depressing. Ben appreciates her directness, but it confirms his growing suspicion that the system he works within is fundamentally at odds with his beliefs about how children should be treated. That afternoon, Ben makes a decision that surprises even himself. Instead of going straight home after work, he drives across town to Roosevelt Elementary. He doesn't have a plan exactly, just a need to see how Malik is adjusting to his new environment. Roosevelt Elementary is newer than Lincoln, with better funding evident in its landscaping and building maintenance. Ben parks across the street and watches as children file out of the building toward waiting buses and cars. He spots Malik walking alone toward the bus line, his small figure recognizable even from a distance. The boy moves with the careful, reserved steps Ben remembers from his first days at Lincoln Elementary, the posture of someone trying not to attract attention or cause problems. Ben doesn't approach. He simply watches, noting the way Malik keeps his head down, the way he doesn't interact with the other children, the way he climbs onto the bus without looking back at the building. It's clear that the fresh start Mrs. Chen hoped for hasn't erased Malik's fundamental struggles with trust and connection. As the bus pulls away, Ben catches a glimpse of Malik's face in one of the windows. Even from across the street, the boy's expression of resigned loneliness is unmistakable. Driving home, Ben thinks about Sophia's question, "Are you going to let them win?" The investigation may be over, but the larger battle continues between policies designed to prevent problems and practices that actually help children, between institutional safety and human connection, between fear and love. By the time Ben reaches his apartment, he's made another decision. This one feels bigger, more consequential than anything he's done since Maria's death forced him to reimagine his entire life. Sophia is in the kitchen working on homework when he walks in. She looks up from her math worksheet, immediately sensing the change in his demeanor. "Papa, you look different. What happened?" "The investigation is over. I've been cleared of any wrongdoing." Sophia's face lights up. "That's wonderful. So everything can go back to normal now? Not exactly. Ben sits across from her at the table, pushing aside her homework to create space for a serious conversation. Sophia, I need to tell you about a decision I'm considering, and I need to know how you feel about it. Sophia sets down her pencil, giving him her full attention. The district has created new policies that will make it very difficult for me to help students the way I believe they should be helped. I can keep my job, but I'll have to be someone different, more distant, more careful, more concerned about rules than about kids. That sounds terrible. It is terrible, and I don't think I can do it. Ben takes a deep breath. I'm thinking about looking for a different job. Maybe at a different school district, maybe doing something completely different. But it would mean changes for us, possibly moving, definitely less financial security for a while. Sophia considers this information with the seriousness she brings to all important family decisions. Would it mean you could go back to being yourself, to helping kids who need it? Maybe. I hope so. Then we should do it. The certainty in her voice surprises Ben. Papa, you've been different since this whole thing started. Sadder, more worried, like you're carrying something heavy all the time. I don't want you to spend the rest of your life being careful instead of being kind. Ben reaches across the table and takes Sophia's hand. It might be hard, Mija. We might have to give up some things we're used to. The things that matter most don't cost money, Sophia says, echoing one of Maria's favorite sayings. And what matters most is that you're the kind of person who plays peekaboo with scared kids, even when other people think you shouldn't. That night, after Sophia has gone to bed, Ben sits in his living room looking at Malik's superhero drawing one more time. The boy's vision of him as a hero seems both naive and profound naive because Ben doesn't feel heroic, just human, but profound because it recognizes something essential about the person Ben wants to be. The drawing represents more than a child's gratitude for a moment of comfort. It represents a worldview where adults are protectors and nurturers, where kindness is strength, where caring for others is the most important work anyone can do. Ben thinks about all the children like Malik who move through educational systems designed more to process them than to see them. He thinks about the policies being created in response to his moment of spontaneous compassion, policies that will make future moments of connection less likely, not more. But he also thinks about the parents who came to Mrs. Williams to defend him, about the community members who understand and value what he tried to do, about his daughter's unwavering faith in his character and choices. Maybe there are other places where being a caring adult isn't seen as a liability. Maybe there are other schools, other communities, other ways of working with children that don't require choosing between compassion and compliance. As Ben prepares for bed, he makes a silent promise to the boy in the drawing. He won't let them win. He won't let fear triumph over care, or policies prevent connections, or investigations intimidate him into being less than the person Malik saw when he drew his superhero. Tomorrow, he'll start looking for a place where peekaboo is still considered appropriate therapy for a crying child, where janitors are allowed to be human beings, and where the most important qualification for working with children is simply the desire to help them flourish. The battle may be larger than Ben initially understood, but he's no longer willing to surrender without a fight. The email arrives on a Tuesday morning while Ben is eating breakfast with Sophia before school. His phone chimes with a notification that he almost ignores, but something about the sender's name, Lincoln Elementary Parent Coalition, catches his attention. The message is from Mrs. Rodriguez, Carlos's mother, and it's longer and more formal than Ben expects. Dear Mr. Torres, we are a group of Lincoln Elementary parents who have been following the recent events regarding your interaction with a student and the subsequent investigation. We believe strongly that you were wrongfully questioned for showing basic human kindness to a child in need. We have learned that new district policies will severely restrict the kind of caring interactions that make our schools special. We have also learned that you are considering leaving Lincoln Elementary because of these restrictions. We cannot accept this outcome. We are organizing a presentation to the school board to request a review of these new policies and to advocate for the kind of school environment where caring adults like you are supported, not suspected. The board meeting is scheduled for Thursday, October 15th at 7 p.m. in the district office auditorium. We would be honored if you would consider speaking at this meeting. Your voice and your story could help the board understand what's really at stake when we create policies based on fear rather than trust. We know this attention is difficult for you and your family, but please consider that your experience could help prevent other caring adults from facing similar situations and could help ensure that children like Malik receive the support they need when they need it. 23 families have already committed to attending the meeting. We hope you'll join us. With gratitude and respect, the Lincoln Elementary Parent Coalition. Ben reads the email twice, then shows it to Sophia, who's been watching his expression with growing curiosity. They want you to speak at a school board meeting? Sophia asks after reading the message. Apparently. Are you going to do it? Ben considers the question while finishing his coffee. The idea of addressing a school board meeting, of putting himself in the center of a public debate about education policy, feels both terrifying and necessary. I don't know, Mija. I'm not good at public speaking. I'm just a janitor. Sophia gives him a look that's become familiar, the expression she wears when her father underestimates himself. Papa, you're not just anything. And maybe that's exactly why they need to hear from you. At work that morning, Ben finds himself moving through his familiar routines while wrestling with the decision. As he mops the main hallway where he first encountered Malik, he remembers the simplicity of that momentous child in distress, an adult's instinctive response, a connection that transcended job descriptions and official protocols. Mrs. Williams finds him during his lunch break, sitting in the supply closet where he often retreats when he needs to think. Ben, I heard about the Parent Coalition's request. Have you decided whether you'll speak at the board meeting? I'm considering it, but I'm not sure what I could say that would make a difference. Mrs. Williams sits on a small stool, making herself comfortable in the cramped space. Can I tell you something about school board meetings? Ben nods. The board members are mostly good people who want to do right by students and families. But they're usually responding to problems that have already happened, trying to prevent lawsuits and manage risk. They rarely hear from people like you, people who work directly with children every day and understand what kids actually need. What do you think I should do? I think you should tell them about Malik, not just what happened that day, but what you've observed about children who are struggling and what they need from the adults in their school. I think you should help them understand that policies designed to prevent problems sometimes create bigger problems. That afternoon, Ben receives 2 more messages that help clarify his thinking. The first is a text from Sophia. Papa, I found Mama's journal from when she was a teacher. She wrote, "The day we stop seeing children as whole human beings who need our care is the day we stop being educators. Rules exist to serve children, not the other way around." I think she would want you to speak. The second message is more unexpected, a phone call from Mrs. Chen, Malik's foster mother. Mr. Torres, I hope you don't mind me calling. I got your number from Mrs. Williams. Of course not. How is Malik adjusting to Roosevelt Elementary? There's a long pause before Mrs. Chen responds. That's actually why I'm calling. He's not adjusting well at all. He's withdrawn, barely speaking to his teachers or classmates. He keeps asking when he can see you again. Ben's heart clenches. I'm sorry to hear that. Mr. Torres, I owe you an apology. When I requested Malik's transfer, I thought I was protecting him from a difficult situation. But I realize now that I may have taken him away from the first adult who made him feel truly safe at school. Mrs. Chen, please, let me finish. I've been a foster parent for 8 years, and I've seen a lot of children struggle with trust and attachment. What I saw in that video, what I heard about from Malik constantly, was the kind of connection these kids desperately need. I was so worried about the controversy that I lost sight of what was actually good for Malik. Ben doesn't know how to respond to this unexpected confession. Mrs. Chen continues, I heard about the school board meeting, about the parents organizing to support you. I want you to know that if you decide to speak, I'll be there too. Malik needs advocates who understand that sometimes the most important interventions aren't found in policy manuals. After the call ends, Ben sits in his quiet apartment, contemplating the weight of unexpected responsibility. The parents who have organized this meeting aren't just supporting him, they're asking him to represent something larger, to speak for all the caring adults who work with children and for all the children who need more than institutional care. That evening, Ben and Sophia work together to prepare for the board meeting. Sophia helps him organize his thoughts, writing down key points on index cards with the systematic approach she brings to her school projects. What's the most important thing you want them to understand? Sophia asks. Ben thinks carefully. That children are more than potential problems to be managed. They're human beings who need to be seen and valued and cared for, especially when they're struggling. Write that down. What else? That the adults who work with children every day, teachers, counselors, support, staff, we know things about what kids need that don't always show up in policy documents. Sophia nods approvingly and adds the point to their growing list. And that creating barriers between caring adults and children doesn't make children safer, it makes them more isolated. They continue this process for an hour, with Sophia asking questions that help Ben articulate thoughts he's been carrying but hasn't fully expressed. She approaches the task with the seriousness of someone who understands that her father's words could influence important decisions. Papa, Sophia says as they finish their preparation, I want to come to the meeting with you. Ben's immediate instinct is to protect her from the potential controversy and public attention. Mija, school board meetings can be boring and sometimes contentious. This isn't just about your job, is it? It's about what kind of schools kids like me get to attend. It's about whether adults are allowed to care about us or if they have to worry more about rules than about our feelings. Once again, Sophia's insight cuts straight to the heart of the matter. This isn't just about Ben's employment or even about the specific policies being implemented. It's about the fundamental question of what schools are for and how the adults within them should relate to the children they serve. Okay, Ben agrees. We'll go together. Wednesday evening brings an unexpected visitor. Ben opens his apartment door to find Mrs. Thompson, the kindergarten teacher who had originally recorded and shared the viral video. She looks nervous but determined. Ben, I hope it's okay that I came by. I wanted to talk to you before tomorrow's meeting. Ben invites her in, offering coffee, while Sophia continues her homework at the dining room table. I need to tell you how sorry I am, Mrs. Mums. Thompson begins. When I posted that video, I never imagined it would lead to an investigation or cause problems for you. I just thought it was beautiful and worth sharing. Mrs. Thompson, you have nothing to apologize for. You shared something that showed the best of what can happen in schools. But the consequences aren't your fault. They're the result of a system that's more concerned with liability than with children's well-being. Mrs. Thompson nods gratefully. I'll be at the meeting tomorrow night, along with most of the other teachers from Lincoln Elementary. We want the board to understand that what you did represents the kind of caring we want to see more of, not less. After Mrs. Thompson leaves, Ben receives one final message that solidifies his resolve. It's a short email from an unexpected source, David Chen, from the district office, the administrator who had initially warned Ben about appropriate boundaries. Ben, I want you to know that I've been following the developments since our meeting, and I've been reflecting on the policies we're implementing. I've also been thinking about my own children and the kind of adults I hope they encounter in their schools. While I still believe we need guidelines to protect both students and staff, I'm beginning to wonder if we've gone too far in the direction of caution at the expense of human connection. I'll be at tomorrow's board meeting, and I'll be interested in hearing what you and the parent coalition have to say. Respectfully, David Chen. Thursday arrives grey and drizzly, the kind of October evening that speaks of autumn's deepening hold on the world. Ben dresses carefully his best shirt and tie, the navy blazer he wore to Maria's funeral 3 years ago. Sophia chooses her outfit with equal care, understanding instinctively that tonight calls for their most respectful presentation. They arrive at the district office to find the parking lot fuller than Ben has ever seen it. Cars bear bumper stickers and window signs reading, "We stand with Ben," and "Let teachers teach, let caring count." The sight is both encouraging and overwhelming. Inside the auditorium, Ben recognizes faces from Lincoln Elementary and beyond: teachers, parents, students, community members who have been following the story. Mrs. Rodriguez waves them over to seats she's saved in the front section, and Ben finds himself surrounded by families he's served and colleagues who understand his work. The school board members take their seats at the front table, 5 individuals who will determine not just Ben's future, but the policies that will govern how adults and children interact in their district schools. Ben studies their faces, looking for signs of openness or preformed opinions. Board President Sarah Martinez calls the meeting to order and acknowledges the unusual size of the crowd. "We understand that many of you are here regarding recent policy changes related to staff-student interactions. We want to assure everyone that we'll provide adequate time for public comment and will give serious consideration to all perspectives shared tonight." Ben feels Sophia reach for his hand as the formal proceedings begin. Her palm is slightly damp with nervous excitement, but her grip is steady and supportive. The moment he's been preparing for is approaching: the opportunity to speak for Malik, for himself, for every child who needs more than institutional care, and every adult who wants to provide it. As the board works through preliminary business, Ben reviews his index cards one final time, but he realizes he won't need them. The words he needs to say aren't written on cards, they're written in his memory of a scared 7-year-old boy, in his understanding of what children need to thrive, and in his conviction that caring for others is both a privilege and a responsibility that shouldn't require permission. The public comment period is about to begin, and Ben Torres, janitor, single father, and accidental advocate, ready to fight for the right to see children as more than potential liabilities and to treat them with the full measure of human compassion they deserve. Board President Sarah Martinez adjusts her microphone and surveys the packed auditorium. "We'll now open the floor for public comment regarding the recent policy changes concerning staff-student interactions. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. Please state your name and your connection to the district before beginning your remarks." Mrs. Rodriguez is the first to approach the podium, her confidence evident as she addresses the 5 board members. "Good evening. I'm Maria Rodriguez, parent of Carlos Rodriguez, a 3rd grader at Lincoln Elementary. I'm here to speak about Ben Torres and about policies that prioritize fear over compassion." She pauses, looking directly at each board member. "Last year, my son had a panic attack during a fire drill. While his teacher was managing 24 other children, Ben Torres sat with Carlos until he felt safe again. Ben didn't fill out a form first. He didn't call the office for permission. He saw a child in distress and responded with kindness. Because of that moment, Carlos no longer fears fire drills, and more importantly, he learned that adults in his school care about his well-being." Mrs. Rodriguez's voice grows stronger. "The new policies you've implemented would prevent that kind of caring response. They would require Ben to leave my son alone with his panic while he sought appropriate personnel. I ask you, what's appropriate about leaving a frightened child to suffer while adults follow bureaucratic procedures?" The auditorium responds with murmurs of agreement. Mrs. Rodriguez concludes, "Ben Torres represents everything we want in the adults who work with our children. Please don't create policies that prevent good people from doing good work." She returns to her seat as Mrs. Patterson, Isabella's mother, takes the podium. Her testimony follows a similar pattern-specific examples of Ben's positive impact, contrasted with the barriers the new policies would create. One by one, parents share stories that paint a comprehensive picture of Ben's daily impact at Lincoln Elementary. The shy child who learned to say hello because Ben always greeted her warmly. the student with behavioral challenges who responds better to Ben's gentle redirection than to formal disciplinary procedures. The kindergartner who stops crying about missing his mother when Ben reminds him that someone at school cares about him too. After 6 parent testimonials, Mrs. Williams approaches the podium. As principal of Lincoln Elementary, her words carry institutional weight that complements the parents' perspectives. Board members, I've worked in education for 19 years, and I've seen the evolution of policies designed to protect children and staff. I understand the need for guidelines and appropriate boundaries. However, I'm concerned that our pendulum has swung too far from human connection toward institutional protection. She gestures toward Ben in the audience. Ben Torres has worked at my school for 3 years. In that time, he has consistently demonstrated the kind of caring professionalism we hope to see from all staff members. His interaction with the student in question was appropriate, necessary, and effective. The child was in distress, Ben provided comfort, and the situation was resolved positively. Mrs. Williams pauses, allowing her words to sink in. The policies we've implemented in response to this incident would not have prevented any actual problem, because no actual problem occurred. Instead, they create barriers between caring adults and children who need support. They prioritize the appearance of propriety over the reality of care. Her conclusion is direct and powerful. I urge you to reconsider these policies. Our children deserve schools where appropriate caring is encouraged, not restricted. The testimonials continue for 45 minutes, creating a cumulative effect that fills the auditorium with stories of connection, care, and positive impact. Teachers speak about the importance of support staff who understand that education involves more than instruction. Community members share observations about Ben's character and contributions. Then, Mrs. Chen takes the podium, and the room grows particularly quiet. Good evening. I'm Patricia Chen, licensed foster parent and current guardian of the child involved in the incident that prompted tonight's meeting. Ben straightens in his seat, surprised to see Malik's foster mother addressing the board directly. I want to be very clear about something, Mrs. Chen begins. When I requested that my foster son be transferred to a different school, I thought I was protecting him from unwanted attention and controversy. I was wrong. She looks out at the audience, her eyes finding Ben's for a moment. The video that started this situation shows something beautiful and adult, seeing a child in pain and responding with immediate, appropriate comfort. My foster son had experienced multiple placement disruptions and had developed significant trust issues with adults. Mr. Torres was the first person in months to connect with him genuinely. Mrs. Chen's voice grows emotional. Since transferring to Roosevelt Elementary, my foster son has regressed significantly. He's withdrawn, uncommunicative, and frequently asks when he can see Mr. Ben again. In trying to protect him from controversy, I separated him from the first adult who made him feel truly seen and valued at school. She faces the board members directly. Foster children like my son don't need more barriers between them and caring adults. They need more connections, more people who see their humanity, more Mr. Torres-type figures in their lives. The policies you're implementing would prevent the kind of healing relationship that my foster son desperately needed. Mrs. Chen concludes with a request that surprises everyone. I'm asking the board to reconsider these restrictive policies, and I'm also asking if there's any way my foster son could return to Lincoln Elementary, where he felt safe and cared for. The auditorium erupts in applause as Mrs. Chen returns to her seat. Board President Martinez calls for order, but it's clear that the testimonials have created significant momentum in favor of reconsidering the new policies. As the applause subsides, Martinez announces, "We have one final speaker for public comment, Ben Torres." Ben rises from his seat, feeling Sophia squeeze his hand as he stands. The walk to the podium feels both endless and instantaneous. When he reaches the microphone, he looks out at an auditorium filled with faces he recognizes, parents, colleagues, community members who have come to support not just him, but the principle he represents. Good evening. I'm Ben Torres, custodial staff at Lincoln Elementary School. His voice is steady, though his heart is racing. 3 weeks ago, I found a 7-year-old boy crying in a hallway. He was scared, alone, and overwhelmed by circumstances beyond his control. I did what any caring adult should do. I knelt down and tried to help him feel a little less alone in the world. Ben pauses, gathering his thoughts. I didn't think about policies or procedures in that moment. I thought about a child who needed comfort. I played peekaboo with him because it made him smile, because it helped him remember that someone saw him and cared about his well-being. He looks directly at the board members. I understand the need for guidelines and appropriate boundaries. I understand the importance of protecting both children and adults. But I also understand something else. Children can tell the difference between adults who see them as whole human beings and adults who see them as potential problems to be managed. Ben's voice grows stronger as he finds his rhythm. The new policies you've implemented would have prevented me from helping Malik that day. They would have required me to walk away from a crying child to find appropriate personnel. They would have prioritized procedure over compassion. He gestures toward the packed auditorium. Every person who spoke tonight has shared examples of moments when caring adults made positive differences in children's lives. These weren't planned interventions or official programs. They were human responses to human needs. The policies you're considering would eliminate many of these moments. Ben takes a breath, preparing for his most important points. I've worked at Lincoln Elementary for 3 years. In that time, I've seen hundreds of children face challenges: divorce, poverty, learning difficulties, social struggles, family crises. The children who thrive are those who feel seen and supported by the adults in their school. The children who struggle are often those who feel invisible or unwanted. His voice becomes more personal. I'm a single father. I know what it means to worry about your child's safety and well-being. I want appropriate boundaries and professional behavior from everyone who works with children. But I also want my daughter to attend schools where caring adults are free to show appropriate compassion when children need it. Ben looks at Sophia in the audience, drawing strength from her encouraging nod. The investigation into my actions has been concluded, and I've been cleared of any wrongdoing. But the real question isn't whether I followed proper procedures. It's whether we want schools where adults are afraid to comfort crying children, where kindness requires permission, where policies prevent the kind of human connections that help children heal and grow. He pauses, letting the weight of that question settle over the auditorium. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I'm asking you to reconsider policies that prioritize institutional protection over children's emotional needs. I'm asking you to trust that most adults who work with children do so because they care about children's well-being. And I'm asking you to remember that sometimes the most important thing we can offer a struggling child is simply the assurance that they matter to someone. Ben concludes with quiet conviction. Malik drew a picture of me as a superhero after our interaction. But I'm not a superhero. I'm just an adult who believes that every child deserves to be seen, valued, and cared for. That shouldn't require special powers or administrative approval. It should simply require permission to be human. The auditorium erupts in sustained applause as Ben returns to his seat. Sophia reaches for his hand again, her eyes bright with pride and tears. Board President Martinez allows the applause to continue for nearly a minute before calling for order. The energy in the auditorium is palpable, not angry or confrontational, but deeply moved and unified around a shared understanding of what's at stake. Thank you, Mr. Torres, Martinez says. We'll now close public comment and move to board discussion. But before she can continue, a small commotion near the back of the auditorium draws everyone's attention. Mrs. Chen is walking down the center aisle, holding the hand of a small boy who wasn't there when the meeting began. It's Malik. The 7-year-old walks beside his foster mother with the careful steps of a child entering an adult space, but his eyes are scanning the crowd with obvious purpose. When he spots Ben in the front section, his face lights up with unmistakable joy. Board President Martinez pauses, uncertain how to handle this unexpected development. Mrs. Chen approaches the board table with Malik beside her. "I apologize for the interruption," Mrs. Chen says, "but when I told my foster son about tonight's meeting, he asked if he could come. He said he had something important to say." Martinez looks at her fellow board members, then at the crowd of adults waiting expectantly. "This is highly irregular." "Please," Mrs. Chen continues, "he's 7 years old, and this situation has affected him more than anyone else in this room. Don't you think he deserves a voice in decisions about his own well-being?" The auditorium has grown completely silent. Board member Dr. Williams, not related to Principal Williams, leans toward his microphone. "Young man, do you understand where you are and what we're talking about?" Malik nods solemnly. In his small voice, he says, "You're talking about Mr. Ben and whether he's allowed to help kids who are sad." The simple accuracy of his summary draws soft chuckles from the audience. Dr. Williams exchanges glances with his colleagues, then nods. "Would you like to tell us something?" Malik looks back at Mrs. Chen, who encourages him with a gentle smile. Then he approaches the podium, though he's too short to reach the microphone. Ben starts to rise from his seat, instinctively wanting to help, but Sophia places a restraining hand on his arm. Board member Jennifer Park comes around the table and adjusts the microphone to Malik's height. "Is that better?" she asks kindly. Malik nods and looks out at the auditorium full of adults. For a moment, he seems overwhelmed by the attention, but then his eyes find Ben's, and his expression becomes determined. "My name is Malik Johnson," he begins, his voice small but clear in the amplified silence. "I'm 7 years old, and I'm in foster care." The words hang in the air with heartbreaking directness. This child, who has experienced more disruption and loss than most adults will face in a lifetime, is about to speak for himself in ways the system rarely allows. "I've lived with lots of different families," Malik continues, his small hands gripping the podium's edge. "Sometimes people are nice to me, but they usually don't really see me. They see a foster kid, or a problem, or someone they have to take care of because it's their job." The auditorium is utterly still. Even the board members have leaned forward, recognizing that they're hearing something rare and important. "But Mr. Ben sees me," Malik says, his voice growing stronger. "When I was crying in the hallway because everything was scary and new, he didn't walk by like most grown-ups do. He sat down with me and played peekaboo, and for the first time in a really long time, I felt like someone cared about me just because I'm me." Malik looks directly at the board members now. "I don't understand why some people think Mr. Ben did something wrong. He helped me when I was sad. He made me laugh. He made me feel like I mattered." Board President Martinez dabs at her eyes with a tissue, clearly struggling to maintain professional composure. Malik continues with the devastating honesty that only children possess. "When Mrs. Chen took me to the new school because people were saying bad things about Mr. Ben helping me, I got really sad again. The new school is okay, but nobody there knows my name or cares if I'm having a bad day. I keep hoping I'll see Mr. Ben again, but Mrs. Chen said I can't because of rules." The child pauses, gathering his thoughts with visible effort. "I don't think rules should stop grown-ups from being nice to kids. I think rules should make sure grown-ups are nice to kids." Malik looks back at Ben, his expression earnest and determined. "Mr. Ben, I drew you as a superhero because you are a superhero. You saved me from feeling invisible. You saved me from thinking nobody cared." Then he addresses the board members with the moral clarity that sometimes comes from those who have experienced the world's failures most directly. "Please don't make rules that stop people like Mr. Ben from helping kids like me. We need more people who see us and care about us, not fewer." Malik steps back from the microphone, his testimony complete. The auditorium erupts in applause that's different from what came before. This isn't polite appreciation, but raw emotion, adults moved by a child's simple truth-telling. Mrs. Chen takes Malik's hand and guides him toward where Ben is sitting. Without hesitation, Ben rises and embraces the boy, not caring about policies or procedures or who might be watching. This is simply a caring adult greeting a child he's missed, and everyone in the room understands it as exactly that. "I missed you, buddy," Ben whispers. "I missed you too, Mr. Ben." Malik replies. "Are you going to be okay?" "I think so," Ben says, looking at the boy's trusting face. "I think we're all going to be okay." Board President Martinez struggles to regain control of the meeting as the emotional impact of Malik's testimony settles over the room. She allows the applause to continue before finally calling for order. "Thank you, Malik," she says, her voice noticeably affected. "That was very brave of you to speak to us tonight." The board members confer quietly among themselves for several minutes while the auditorium waits. Ben holds Sophia's hand on one side and rests his other hand on Malik's shoulder as the boy leans against his chair. Finally, Dr. Williams addresses the room. "This evening has provided the board with perspectives we hadn't fully considered when implementing our recent policy changes. The testimonies we've heard, particularly from the young man who just spoke, have highlighted some unintended consequences of our well-intentioned guidelines." He looks at his fellow board members before continuing. "We believe a brief recess is appropriate to allow the board to discuss what we've heard tonight and determine our next steps." Board President Martinez nods. "We'll reconvene in 15 minutes for the board's response to tonight's public comments." As the board members file out for their private discussion, the auditorium fills with conversation. Parents approach Ben to express support, teachers share their own concerns about the restrictive policies, and community members discuss the broader implications of what they've witnessed. Sophia stays close to her father, proud of his courage in speaking publicly, but also nervous about what the board's decision might mean for their family. Malik remains at Ben's side, clearly comfortable in his presence in ways that he isn't with most adults. Mrs. Chen approaches the small group gathered around Ben. "Mr. Torres, I owe you another apology this time for taking so long to realize that Malik belonged at Lincoln Elementary with people who understand and care about him." "There's no need to apologize," Ben replies. "You were trying to protect him. That's what good parents do. I'd like to request his transfer back to Lincoln Elementary if the board's decision tonight makes that possible." Ben looks down at Malik, who's been following the adult conversation with the intense focus of a child who knows it affects his future. "What do you think, buddy? Would you like to come back to Lincoln Elementary?" Malik's response is immediate and emphatic. "Yes, I want to come back to school where you are." The 15-minute recess stretches to 25 minutes, creating growing tension in the auditorium. When the board members finally return, their expressions are serious but not grim. Board President Martinez calls the meeting back to order. The board has discussed tonight's testimonies at length. "We want to acknowledge the courage of everyone who spoke, especially young Malik, whose perspective has been particularly illuminating." She pauses, looking out at the expectant faces. "We also want to acknowledge that our recent policy changes, while well-intentioned, may have created barriers to the kind of appropriate, caring relationships that benefit students." Dr. Williams takes over. "Therefore, the board is voting tonight to suspend implementation of the restrictive contact policies pending a comprehensive review involving educators, parents, students, and child development experts. We want to develop guidelines that protect everyone while still allowing for the human connections that make schools communities rather than institutions." The auditorium erupts in cheers and applause. Sophia squeezes Ben's hand so tightly it almost hurts, while Malik jumps up and down with excitement he can't contain. Board President Martinez raises her hand for quiet. "Additionally, we're directing the administration to work with families like Mrs. Chen's to facilitate transfers that serve students' best interests, including returns to previous schools when appropriate." She looks directly at Ben. "Mr. Torres, we want to formally acknowledge that your actions were appropriate, caring, and exactly what we hope to see from adults who work with our students. We're sorry that our institutional response may have suggested otherwise." As the meeting moves toward adjournment, Ben feels a sense of completion that goes beyond personal vindication. The battle was never really about his job security or even about specific policies. It was about affirming that children deserve to be treated as whole human beings worthy of care and attention. The crowd begins to disperse, but many people linger to continue conversations and express gratitude. Teachers discuss how they'll implement more compassionate approaches within whatever guidelines emerge from the policy review. Parents talk about staying engaged with school governance to ensure children's voices are heard in future decisions. As Ben prepares to leave with Sophia, Malik tugs on his sleeve. "Mr. Ben, will I see you at school on Monday?" Ben kneels to the boy's eye level, struck by how much has changed since the last time he made this gesture. "I'll be there, buddy. And if you need anything, if you're having a tough day or just want to say hi, you know where to find me." Malik grins and hugs Ben with the uninhibited affection of a child who finally feels secure in an adult's care. It's a simple gesture, but in the context of everything that's happened, it feels like a victory not just for them personally, but for everyone who believes that kindness should never require permission. As the Torres family now expanded to include one 7-year-old boy who isn't officially theirs but feels like family anyway walks out of the district office building, Ben reflects on how much has changed since that morning 3 weeks ago when he found Malik crying in a hallway. The viral video that started everything has led to something better than fame or recognition. It's led to a community-wide affirmation that caring for children is not just acceptable but essential, and that the adults who do this work deserve support rather than suspicion. Tomorrow, Ben will return to Lincoln Elementary, not just as a janitor, but as someone whose voice has been heard and whose values have been validated by the community he serves. And Malik will return too, ready to continue learning in a place where he knows at least one adult sees him, values him, and will always have time for peekaboo when the world feels too big and scary to handle alone. 6 months later, the morning sun streams through the windows of Lincoln Elementary School, casting familiar patterns of light and shadow across the hallway where everything began. Ben Torres pushes his cart down the corridor, but his role has evolved beyond custodial duties. A small brass nameplate on his shirt now reads Student Support Specialist, a position created specifically to formalize what he had been doing informally for years. The district's comprehensive policy review, completed 4 months after the school board meeting, resulted in groundbreaking guidelines that other school systems across the state are now studying and implementing. The Lincoln Elementary model emphasizes what they call compassionate engagement, a framework that protects both children and adults while encouraging the kind of caring relationships that help students thrive. Ben still maintains the building and keeps his custodial responsibilities, but now he also has official time allocated for what Mrs. Williams calls hallway counseling, being available for students who need someone to notice they're struggling, someone to listen, someone to remind them that they matter. It's work he was always doing. Now it's work he's trained and supported to do even better. This morning, as Ben organizes supplies in his closet, he hears a familiar voice in the hallway. "Mr. Ben, Mr. Ben, look what I made." Malik appears in the doorway, holding up a science project with the pride of an 8-year-old who has discovered something amazing about the world. He's been back at Lincoln Elementary for 5 months now, and the transformation has been remarkable. The withdrawn, fearful child who once cried alone in hallways has become curious, confident, and eager to share his discoveries with the adults he trusts. "That's incredible, buddy," Ben says, examining Malik's project about plant growth. "Tell me how you figured out which plants grew best." As Malik explains his methodology with the enthusiasm of a budding scientist, Ben marvels at the changes 8 months can bring. The boy's placement with Mrs. Chen has stabilized into something that feels like permanence, and her husband have begun the process of adopting Malik, giving him the security he's needed to truly flourish. "Mrs. Rodriguez says if I keep working hard, I might be able to skip ahead in math next year," Malik confides. "Do you think I'm smart enough?" "I think you're exactly as smart as you need to be," Ben replies. "And I think when you work hard at something you care about, there's no limit to what you can achieve." It's the kind of conversation that happens daily, now moments of connection that build confidence and reinforce belonging. The new policies don't just allow these interactions, they encourage and support them as essential elements of a healthy school environment. As Malik heads off to class, Sophia appears at the supply closet door. Now 13 and in 8th grade, she volunteers at Lincoln Elementary 3 afternoons a week, helping with tutoring and mentoring programs. The experience of watching her father advocate for caring relationships in schools has inspired her own interest in education and child development. "Papa, Mrs. Williams wants to see you in her office when you have a moment," Sophia reports. "She has something to show you." Ben finds Mrs. Williams at her computer, scrolling through emails with a satisfied expression. "Ben, I wanted you to see this before I respond." She turns the monitor toward him, revealing a message from the State Department of Education. The subject line reads, "Request for consultation, compassionate engagement policies." They want Lincoln Elementary to present our model to a statewide conference of educators and administrators, Mrs. Williams explains. Specifically, they want you to speak about implementing caring relationships within appropriate professional boundaries. Ben reads through the invitation, noting phrases like innovative approach and measurable improvements in student well-being and academic performance. The data is impressive, since implementing the new policies, Lincoln Elementary has seen reductions in behavioral incidents, increases in academic achievement, and improvements in student and family satisfaction surveys. "You want me to speak at a state conference?" Ben asks, still adjusting to his expanded role beyond the familiar walls of Lincoln Elementary. "I want us to speak at a state conference," Mrs. Williams corrects. "This isn't just about your individual story anymore, Ben. It's about demonstrating that schools can prioritize both safety and compassion, that proper policies enhance rather than restrict caring relationships." Through Mrs. Williams' office window, Ben can see the playground where students are enjoying recess. Among them, he spots Malik playing tag with a group of classmates, his laughter carrying across the yard. It's an ordinary moment that represents an extraordinary transformation. A child who once felt invisible, now fully engaged with his peers and his environment. "I'll do it," Ben decides. "If sharing our experience can help other schools support caring adults and vulnerable children, then it's worth stepping outside my comfort zone." That afternoon, Ben receives an unexpected visitor during his lunch break. David Chen, the district administrator who had initially warned him about boundary violations, appears at the supply closet door looking somewhat sheepish. "Ben, do you have a few minutes to talk?" They sit together in the small space where Ben often has his most meaningful conversations with students. David looks around at the organized supplies, the children's artwork taped to the walls, the comfortable chair Ben keeps for students who need a quiet place to decompress. "I owe you an apology," David begins. "When we first met after the viral video, I was so focused on potential problems that I couldn't see the actual good you were doing. I let legal concerns override common sense about what children need." Ben appreciates the honesty, but he's learned that blame is less important than learning. "You were trying to protect the district and the students. Those are good instincts, even if the application was problematic. The policy review process has taught me a lot," David continues. "Working with child development experts, reviewing research about healthy adult-child relationships, seeing the data from Lincoln Elementary, it's changed how I think about our role in supporting both students and staff." He pauses, looking thoughtful. "I've been asked to lead the district's implementation of compassionate engagement policies at other schools. I was hoping you might consider being part of that team, helping other custodial and support staff understand how to build caring relationships within appropriate professional frameworks." It's another expansion of Ben's role, another opportunity to influence how children are treated in educational settings. "I'd be honored to help," Ben says. "Every child deserves to have adults in their school who see them as whole human beings." That evening, Ben and Sophia sit at their kitchen table, now expanded to include a third chair for the evenings when Malik comes for dinner and homework help. The Chen family has become like extended family, with regular shared meals and weekend activities that give Malik additional stability and Ben and Sophia the joy of being part of his continued growth. Tonight, Malik is working on a writing assignment about heroes. Ben can't help but smile as he reads over the boy's shoulder. "My hero is Mr. Ben Torres. He works at my school and helps kids when they need help. When I was new and scared, he played peekaboo with me and made me feel better. Some people thought he did something wrong, but he didn't. He did something right. Mr. Ben taught me that grown-ups can care about kids even when it's not their official job to care. He taught me that being kind doesn't need permission. He taught me that every kid matters, even kids like me who don't have regular families. Now, Mr. Ben has a special job helping kids at school feel safe and important. He still cleans the building, but he also makes sure no kid feels invisible. I think every school should have someone like Mr. Ben. My hero isn't famous, and he doesn't have superpowers, but he sees kids who are hurting, and he helps them feel better. That's the most important superpower of all." Ben finishes reading with tears in his eyes. 8 months ago, he was simply a janitor who couldn't walk past a crying child. Now he's an advocate, a policy consultant, a living example of how caring adults can transform children's lives when systems support rather than restrict their compassion. But the most important change isn't in his job title or his expanded responsibilities. It's in the knowledge that his moment of spontaneous kindness has created ripple effects that will benefit countless other children and the adults who want to care for them. As Ben helps Malik with his homework and Sophia works on her own projects, he thinks about Maria and how proud she would be of the family they've built and the community they've helped create. Her belief that every person deserves dignity and care lives on not just in their daily interactions, but in policies and practices that will outlast all of them. The peekaboo game that started everything has become a symbol of something larger: the power of seeing and being seen, of offering comfort without conditions, of treating children as precious individuals worthy of adult attention and care. Outside their apartment window, the lights of Lincoln Elementary glow in the distance, a beacon of hope in a world that sometimes forgets how simple and revolutionary kindness can be. Tomorrow, Ben will return to work in a place that has learned to nurture both its students and the adults who serve them, where policies support compassion rather than constrain it, and where every child knows that at least one adult sees them, values them, and will always have time for peekaboo when the world feels too big to handle alone. In the end, that's all any of them ever really needed: to be seen, to be valued, and to know that their well-being matters to someone in the world. It's a simple truth that changed everything, and a lesson that will continue changing lives long after Ben Torres has retired from Lincoln Elementary and Malik Johnson has grown up to become the kind of adult who notices when children need help. The story that began with tears in a school hallway has become a story of hope, proving that individual acts of compassion can transform systems, communities, and lives in ways that ripple far beyond what any one person could imagine. And it all started with a janitor who knew that every child deserves to be seen, really, seen by the adults in their world.